Live from beautiful downtown Bastrop, it's time for the Stage Select, starring Julian Titus and Justin Ham.
What could this possibly be? Seems a lot like a podcast. Wonder what specifically. Talking about video games. With your hosts, you're in good hands. Not more of the same. Now we'll jump right in. So expect the unexpected and more. Now we'll get grooving. Never know who's gonna walk through the door. There just might be some treasure in this chest. Having fun with a special guest. Time for Stage Select.
With special guests,
James and JJ from RetroFits.
and here are your hosts, Julian Titus and Justin Ham.
Welcome, one and all, to the Stage Select. I'm Julian Titus.
And I'm Justin Ham. I'm here too, and I have a new button. It's a great button. I'm really proud of it. I'm really happy about it. I can't wait to ask everyone who got the hooch.
Okay, yeah, you unveiled it on me just before the show. I'm curious to see how it's implemented, but
Julian?
it might just be that simple.
Julian, you got the hooch.
I've got Turner and Hooch on DVD.
That's okay. See?
Yeah.
There you go.
It's a big slobbering dog. He's very adorable.
I feel like this is up for a lot of interpretation.
Yeah, just as every episode of the Stage Select should be.
James
from RetroFits.
You have the hooch.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just like I always wanted.
Yeah.
Where am I?
Oh,
Nice.
That's a good button. That's a good button. Oh, man.
James, welcome back. First official return guest of the Stage Select.
Yeah.
Wow.
I count this as your actual like official return because you guys did us a solid and did like that pre-recorded bit for that one episode, but that was more of like a weird experimental show. Like this is actually y'all live. Well, one of y'all live. Unfortunately, JJ couldn't be here, but that was the original plan.
What
so
was
great
that-
to have you back.
That quote from that episode, it was unhinged, mostly good. I
Yes.
think was the quote that I heard when I was listening to it, and I was just like, oh, there's your tagline right there.
Yeah.
There it is.
That might actually go on a t-shirt one day, besides Show a Man. But before we really like jump into things, I just want to make it very clear to everybody present and also all the listeners at home that would very much like you to JDON my soul.
What's that mean?
I think you know what it means, Justin.
I don't.
I think you should JDON my soul. And you should JDON your soul as well.
All right.
Yeah.
Hang
Okay.
on. I don't know if I'm spelling this correctly, but I am Googling it.
Is
Yeah,
this a Star Trek thing? Is that what this is?
It might be a it's a Hollow Life. Okay.
It's a
Okay.
thing.
Okay.
Look,
Gotcha.
like, you know, what, like, we still don't know what show a man means, but you're all up in my grill about JDON my soul. I see how it is.
No,
I see how
Sometimes
it
you
is.
have to show a man, Julian. I don't know what. I don't know. What the
I
problem is.
just live most of my life confused. So in general, when I have, because I'm sitting like right in front of my setup, so I can actively Google stuff like in real
yeah,
time.
It's good.
It's a good feeling.
Yeah, it is.
No,
It's
yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Justin uses it liberally.
Yeah, I do it all the time. This is what I'm
Yes.
here for.
That's right.
Yeah, I got my phone. I use
Keep the
that.
facts straight.
That's right. No, you have to. This is a podcast where facts are important.
The two things that people know the most about the Stage Select is that we have the latest breaking news.
That's right.
You know, hot and fresh for you. And it is the most fact-checked podcast in human history.
Yeah, even though I
But-
probably fact check everything wrong, but it's fine. That's the fun of it.
Yeah. James, we'll get into it. I just wanted to say, like, we'll do plugs again at the end of the show, but obviously you're from the RetroFits YouTube channel. We've worked together a couple times now. It's been a lot of fun. Congratulations on completing Quest 64. I just need to listen to, or you just need to watch the last like episode and a half.
Oh yeah,
I'm all caught up.
Awesome. Yeah, it was kind of bittersweet uploading the finale because JJ and I both went into Quest 64 of a specific mindset because neither of us had played it, and it you know, even back in the day, had reviews that would make most kids go, oh.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like real?
It certainly did me. Yeah, I remember reading those reviews and being like, oh, I guess I don't need to play that one. Cool.
Yeah, exactly. Like we both had it in our heads that it was either janky in some way that made it very difficult to play, or that it was just in general like a soul-ripping experience to sit down and try to play it all the way through. And within the first episode, we both kind of just looked at each other and we were like, this is actually kind of good. Either that or we're insane. I mean, both can be true, but yeah, we both just enjoyed it way more than we thought we would, and getting all the way to the end of a game that we thought we were going to quit after like maybe 2 or 3 episodes of just flailing around and failing to get anything done. You know, it was interesting. And through that experience, we also got to have, you know, now I forget his actual name because he was like, you don't have to use my real name on the show, you know, but he runs the official Quest 64,
yes.
Twitter account, X account now, I guess. I don't, whatever.
No, we say Twitter around these parts.
Yep.
Nice. Yeah. Total meme lord, master of all of the unhinged goodness of his own account, genuinely very funny guy. And he came on and actually gave us like really good advice for surviving the game, because apparently we were playing it and having a good time, and we were doing it in such a way that we were about to have a very bad time if we didn't make some adjustments.
Yeah. I think that's the thing with like a lot of those games, like the ones, because what you'll usually find is the ones that end up getting any type of infamy for being really bad or something like that. If you actually go look at them, it's like they're just kind of mediocre. Like they're not actually like the worst thing ever. It's just like years of blogging and YouTuber like hyperbolic content has made them this way. And a lot of cases in with those games, it's like actually like they're kind of janky, and it, you know, they don't explain things very well, right? Like I always go back to Mass Effect 1 because like people constantly call that one the worst in the series. They say it plays really badly, blah blah blah, and it's like it's actually, and I don't like to be an actually guy, but it's like the game does a piss poor job of telling you what makes it special, like as far as like game mechanics go. And once you figure out like how the game mechanics actually work, it's awesome. Like it's for me, it's like the most fun to play like as an RPG. But you know, especially back in like 2007, it was like this shooter RPG feels real bad to play. And, you know, then that kind of stuck, and people just, you know, have kind of rolled with that, especially since Mass Effect 2 was like such an improvement graphically and, you know, like narratively and stuff like that. But it also like lost like a lot of the, you know, like the nitty gritty of the first game as far as like the mechanics go.
Well, before the legendary editions of the Mass Effect trilogy, in the first Mass Effect, your class very strictly determined what weapons you could and couldn't use.
Yes, it did.
Because you could equip all 4, but if you were playing as like the broken shotgun maniac with psychic powers, and you tried to use a sniper rifle, the game just sort of laughed at you. Like you couldn't even aim.
Yep.
But also, even if you were playing like the sniper class, like if you hadn't put any points into the sniper rifle, it was still kind of a joke, which that I think is definitely a valid criticism of the first game, where it's like your super awesome military character should probably be pretty efficient with their weapon of choice at the beginning of the game. But I remember it took like a good, you know, 2 or 3 points going into sniper rifles before they started to like steady out. Because that was the first class that I played was Infiltrator, like way back.
That is a fun class to play as.
Yeah, definitely. So Quest 64 has like a little like soft spot in our hearts because of Nerds Without Pants. When we were doing the video game Cage Match, we were trying really hard to push Quest 64 as
Nobody
like
was having it.
Contender for like the championship tournament that we had. Nobody was having it.
Aw.
Yeah. It's a bummer. It's a bummer, James. It's a bummer.
Yeah.
Pisses me off still.
I still find it kind of funny that like one of the most maligned games in all of history is the E.T. Atari game, and that it is credited with something it absolutely could not have done on its own, which was like bursting the bubble, destroying the Atari company, and just crashing games for a good several years. Like, no, if you go back and actually play the E.T. game, it's really not any better or worse than many other games on the system that people describe as, like you were saying earlier, mediocre at best, you know? And really, the reason the Atari fell apart is the same reason a lot of companies that do what Atari did fell apart. Like, they demanded an E.T. game within a month and a half.
Yeah.
You know, and the guy was like on way too much cocaine because he said, "Sure."
Yeah.
Actually, he wasn't the one on the cocaine. That was upper management. He like excellent documentary. Game Over. The I think it's the Fall of Atari.
Oh, yeah.
Excellent movie. And but that's the thing is that it was just like the final nail in like a bunch of nails in the coffin, because like there had been like so much shit like being done like in and around Atari. Like there was a Rubik's Cube Atari game made.
Oh my god.
You know, a low quality version of a thing that you could just go out and buy for a few bucks.
Yeah, but you can play it on the TV. That's cool.
I mean,
sure.
Credit where it's due. Yes, E.T. was the final nail, but it was the final nail in a bespoke coffin that was carefully constructed over several bad decisions made over many years. You know,
and it's actually a pretty interesting game. And I will say, like back in my retail days at Game Fellas, I've told this on the old show, but like there was a day when we got a 2600 traded in, and there was a copy of E.T. that came in with it. And Teresa, the owner, came in and she was like, "Oh man, I loved this game," and she popped it in and she just started flying through it, dude. Like it was. Like she knew how to play it. Like she had it as a kid. She knew what to do and everything. It's like, yeah, like it like most 2600 games, it was like, you know, it might have been fantastic, but it was like, it was playable, right?
Yeah.
And doing things way more ambitiously than it probably should have, considering he only had like a month or whatever. Like he, you know, it was kind of crazy, like what he put into it. But yeah, I find that with a lot of stuff, and I think that's kind of been my big thing lately with like talking about games, is trying to avoid the hyperbole in either direction, right? Like I am very, very on record as being like, I really loved this game that I just played. I'm going to sit and chew on it for a while before I decide, you know, where it actually sits for me, because like so often like it comes out, it's like, oh, this is the greatest game that I've played. But it's like, really? Like the greatest game that you've played? It came out like last week. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe think about that for a little longer, but you know, you do you. But that's just not the way I operate.
I mean, as I've gotten older, my opinion on gaming as a kid was obviously like very strong opinions, and like as a teenager, you know, because I was young and it was really the only subject that I could say I had any real authority on just through experience. But like as I've aged, as I've gotten older and really like sat and thought about like what this means to me as a lifelong thing, is that gaming is a lot like wine. In that, in reality, what you like is the most important factor when it comes to like buying, tasting, and drinking wine. That can apply so heavily to gaming because there's such a huge variety of not just genres and styles, but also just ways to play. And like we're at a point where when you say something is like the greatest game ever made, like it has to come with a caveat, you know? It's like there's not a championship belt for gaming anymore, because there's like, it's like the Oscars. There's like 500 different categories.
Oh yeah, and I think I would hope it goes without saying, but it probably bears saying, especially these days, is that like anything that I'm going to say is my subjective opinion, because that's like what I'm here to do. And I have tried to get better about that, right? Like, so I'm not gonna say that like, Super Metroid is the greatest game ever made. Super Metroid is my favorite game of all time.
Mm.
Yeah, Super Metroid is a very well-made game that plays very smoothly and is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we've gotten into a situation where people will hear someone exclaim that, but they don't get that it's that person's opinion. And this is why I keep pushing back on it. There's this a big movement lately with game discussion about being objective. And I'm like, I don't give a fuck about like somebody talking about a game objectively. Like that's boring to me.
Mm-hmm.
That's like, to me, it's like an objective thing about a video game is like Mass Effect is a science fiction RPG/shooter released in 2007 for the Xbox 360.
Pressing
like,
buttons will
yawn.
cause actions to happen on the screen. Like,
yeah, it's like, I want to know what you think about it. I want to know what it makes you feel. I want to know, like why you're passionate about it, right? Like that's what I'm here for, and also what I listen to other podcasts for, and what I like about like really good YouTubers with games.
Well, I feel like there's been a bigger push towards having to establish credibility as like an objective source when most people are trying to supply a subjective opinion, because people that like consume this kind of stuff are not all like you and me, where we're here for the passion. Like, we're here to know what you really thought of it, because you seem like an interesting person, and we want to know like what this game evoked from you specifically. Yeah. But there's this thing about like where if you want to reach a really wide audience, you have to sort of front like you're a credible, almost like researcher perspective, like you're an archaeologist or something, and you're going through all of these historical documents to prove that like the thing that you've come up with is like fits into the facts at hand and is like a plausible thing. And in reality, you need to just let people be subjective about certain things. Because we already have objective review sites that are specifically about, mechanics and like graphics and audio and like measuring stuff. We need to have more of like the opinion-based stuff.
Measuring against what? Like, it's still measuring against like their own experience, right? Like, and that's the way that reviews have always been, and that's why I like reviews. Is that back in the magazine days, I would glom on to certain writers and be like, oh, I want to see what so and so has to say about this game. Oh, good, they reviewed it. Like, that's really cool. And then as magazines started to decline and I got into podcasting, then it was even more so, right? Like, because now there was like a personality to go behind the words. So it was like, oh, I really want to hear what Jeremy Parish has to say this week about this game or whatever. Or, like, I don't agree with him most of the time, but when Jeff Gerstmann gets really fired up about a game, like I definitely take notice, because not a lot fires up that dude. So like if he's really passionate about something, it's like I should at least take a look, right? But I'm probably more excited about what like Vinny Caravella or Brad Shoemaker have to say, because their tastes really align with mine most of the time. So I know if they're into something,
right,
okay, that's probably going to be up my alley, right? And that's always been my thing. Yeah, it's a weird, because James, like for like history stuff, right? Or like just doing like a here's what this game's impact was on blah blah blah. It's like that's like definitely a different thing. But I do feel like sometimes the audience is like, tell me what I'm supposed to think about this. And that's not, form your own opinion. And maybe like I try my best to not look at too much stuff before I'm going to talk about a game on the show, just to try to like have my my own spin on it. There'll definitely be times that I'll definitely mention it, right?
Oh, it happens. It happens to the best of us. Yeah, I do it all the time, and I don't even mean to a lot of the time. Sometimes I'm just like, oh, I was kind of curious about that. Let me look at it, and then I'll look at it for however long, catch a few things, and be like, oh yeah, now I'm gonna go play it or whatever. So that's in the back of my head.
I've reached the point in my gaming where I value the opinion of like 3 people, and I'll ask one of them like, hey, have you tried this? Do you think I'd like it? And they'll say yes or no. And JJ is one of those people, just because we do have differing interests in games, but he will actively acknowledge, he will be like, I didn't really like warm up on it, but it's something I think you would love. And that's the kind of reviewing that I sort of have fallen into, because it's the only thing I can really trust for myself.
For sure. Yeah. Similarly with like recommendations, right? Like I've become very cognizant in the last like probably like 5 or 6 years of like, everybody's got a backlog. Everybody's got more games to play than they have time to play. So I try to I try to avoid saying like, oh, you gotta play so and so, because it's like you don't have time to play. But there are certain times, right, where I'll be like, Justin, you should play this. Like, trust me on this, right? Yeah. But I try to like pick those spots, because like, everybody's got plenty to chew through. So like, I try not to add to it.
And usually when you do that, I go and buy it. I sometimes don't get around to playing it, but I always buy it. Like, I still have Goodbye Volcano High, and it's still sitting there, and I'm still like, no, I'm going to play that. I'm sure I will like it. But, no, I this reminds me of a thing I just seen today, where there's a game I'm going to talk about later, and it came up on my little Google News feed or whatever the hell that is. And I was, it was like something about this game, something you should really check out. It's really awesome. And then I'm like, or the exact headline was, I don't like visual novels, but I like this one. And I was like, okay, well, let me see what this person has to say. I'm curious now. And I start reading it, and I'm like, oh, they're only like part of the way in. They just started it. So
that's a
you
weird
haven't
time to
got
make an
all the way
article
through
about
it.
something.
Like they're I'm just like, wait a second, that's because it's weird.
Yeah, 'cause it's very easy to be like really hot on a game and then bounce off midway through.
Absolutely,
right? Like, happens to me all the time.
Exactly. I thought that was weird. It was just like the first impression article of like, yo, this game's great. You guys should check it out. And it's like, you didn't finish it yet. Maybe you should do that before you start saying things like this. But I guess you got to get those articles out somehow.
Well, and that's fine for a preview, but we're talking about a game that's already out. So that's where it gets weird, right? Like, and I'm talking to someone who, used to be the previews editor at Pixelbit before becoming reviews editor. So it's like, I was in like kind of both of those camps at a time when the website actually had like, delegated roles to fill, right? Like, so I got to see both sides. Like, I don't know. Games writing is weird, and I definitely want to have Weston from Big Nerd Gaming on again really soon, because there's definitely a talk I want to have with him about like just reviews in general, because and I'll spoil this part here. Like my main thing right now is that like capital G gamers TM have spent like the last 15 plus years eroding faith in games writing. But then also get angry when they buy a game and like it's not what they expected it to be. And it's like, well, like if you had looked at some reviews before you went and pulled the trigger on it, like that might have helped you there.
Yeah,
that's kind of what they're for. They're for.
Oh, here, can we pause for like 1 second?
Oh yeah,
let me adjust the ambient audio for a second.
Well, now that he's gone, we can really rap.
Oh, you're stealing my lines now? I got it. That's the way to go. That's the way to go.
I did that when you got up like last time.
Oh, absolutely. You have to. It's the best one.
And then you did it later on in the show, so it was great. Like we both did it.
That's perfect. It's perfect. It's perfect. Love it.
Well, James, what have you been up to gaming wise? I mean, obviously, RetroFits probably takes up like a majority of your time.
Yeah, so
especially wait, I can't not talk about this for a few minutes before we move on.
Okay.
You did not have the game audio for like that first session of Quest.
Oh God, yeah.
And you did your own Foley work, and it was fucking phenomenal.
Yeah.
I did it. Dr. Wife did some with me. Like, she also came and recorded some Foley work, and bless her for that. She really didn't have to do that, and it was really hilarious. I will tell you this. I went into it with like a spring in my step, and I was like, these are going to be like some of the best episodes. And I've done it once before on a series, and I'll go into that in a second. But like by the time I got to like the end of the 4th episode of doing it, because there were like 7 or 8 episodes that we did in that session, it was a lot of footage. I was almost dead inside because I have a very special kind of neurodivergence where I will frame perfect the Foley sounds that I'm putting in. So every time you heard "this is the sound of fire," it was on the exact same animation frame of the attack every single time. Every single time. And that took a ton of work, especially because it wasn't just the sounds. I also threw in a bunch of music, I think only one of which was not royalty free, but I'm never going... RetroFits is never going to be at the point where we're monetizing anything, so I think when I put that in, I was just kind of like, fuck it. It's funny here.
Yeah.
Who cares? And the series I did that before in, where I lost the audio, was actually really early on in RetroFits, so all of our audio sounds like we recorded it in my bathroom sink. Between JJ and I, at least, the game audio sounded good, except... so we were playing Suikoden 2 because we started off the series playing Suikoden 1 because the series is mine and JJ's like shared focal point of favorite game. Like,
right.
The second one is top of the list for my like top 5 games of all time, still there to this day. And it was towards... it was kind of towards the middle because it was one of the episodes where I had to re-add audio was the fight with Luca Blight. But I took that one a bit more seriously. Like I downloaded, I should say. I already had, ownership of the entire soundtrack, but I had to download it. I had to get a CD reader and download it off the CDs.
Nice.
And I put in, all of the original music.
Oh, shit.
Back into those episodes and like measured it out and got the frames right. Like going into battle, like the overworld, the war battle music, all of the music was, you'd never know that we lost all the audio. But when the little guys were charging at each other in the war battle, you would hear me just like stacked like 8 or 9 times going, charge.
Nice.
That's cool.
And I just did Foley for like the sword swings, and it's very ridiculous and fun. And that was 100% a work of passion, which is why I look back on it and I don't remember being exhausted the way I was with Quest 64, but I know I absolutely must have been.
Right.
Because it's just daunting work. And to be honest, it was worth it because what we got out of it were like 8 episodes that are truly unbelievably unhinged.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I probably wouldn't have watched the whole series if it wasn't for that. But simply because, like, I don't give a shit about Quest 64.
Right.
I watched the first one because that was like the first thing you guys released, like after you guys were on the show, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, let me go check out their newest thing, and then I was like, oh, this is hilarious. And then, it was only the first 8 episodes, but by that point I was already like kind of invested. And so then I just was like, okay, no, new episode's up. Like, let's go ahead and watch that this week and, just keep going. And yeah, so now I'm like right there at the end. Still don't give a shit about Quest 64, but a lot of that has to do with like Brian. And then
the
also,
journey.
Like, I'm not a big N64 fan in general. So like that like most of the games on the system don't really hold like any nostalgia for me. I owned one when it came, I bought one on launch, but it's just, it paled in comparison to the stuff that the PlayStation was doing at the time for me. But and also James, I really appreciate like your consternation with Brian when he doesn't get his spells off or whatever.
Yeah, because I will say this. The controls are not any jankier than any other game of the era. And that's just like, if you're thinking about it objectively, if you take off the rose glasses and you really sit down today and play Mario 64 with an N64 controller, you're going to get a little frustrated. You just are, because you're an adult now and you don't have that kind of time to do it. And so the game will like, put up the symbol like, oh, if you press A here, he'll use the stick. He'll do his bonk attack. But like, it doesn't tell you that if you hit A while he's in motion and that symbol comes up, you have to wait for his animation to end. And if it ends somewhere where that symbol isn't applicable, he'll just skip his turn.
Oh,
very handy.
Yeah, it's considered a failed attack.
Oh boy.
And I'm just like, I didn't fail. I charged this person, and if you had swung when I told you to swing, you'd have hit him on the head.
No,
but
no,
yeah.
But what if we didn't do that? What if you just made it bad? And sometimes you mess up.
Then I guess you'd have Brian. And really, what more could you want when you really look at this sweet little kid with his funky antenna?
He's trying his best. All right,
Brian.
He's trying his best.
He is trying his best.
Yeah.
Well, I love that even after we learned that he was 12, we kept sort of falling back onto the idea that he was 8. And that this was just like way too big of an adventure for Brian to handle, and he's very lucky he had an adult in control at all times.
Yeah.
Yeah. 8 famously too young for saving the world. 12 perfectly fine. Like, you've definitely learned all you need to know in those 4 years.
4 years is a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they did it in Pokemon, so why not everywhere?
Don't get me started on that entire society. The thing is fucked. I did like the way it looked in Detective Pikachu the movie though. It
was good. That was it looked cool.
I still maintain that Detective Pikachu was an incredible film, not just a Pokemon universe movie, but it was actually a really good movie.
Yeah,
it was.
And it's in my top 3 video game adaptations.
I mean, it's got stuff that I would not show to somebody who was younger than 16.
Right.
The very famous scene where he's they're interrogating Mr. Mime and he just mimes covering him in gasoline and lighting a match. And you're like, hold on. I know he was just miming it, but the Mr. Mime's reaction was a little too real, and I can't handle what might happen unless he blows out that match right now.
Right.
You need to not have this in front of me at this moment.
Yeah. Sorry, I got us off track, but James, what have you been up to, gaming or otherwise recently? Outside of retrofit stuff.
Yeah, outside of retrofits, because we have a few weeks of variety show stuff coming up. It's going to be great. Cool. But the game that I've fallen into, mostly because work has been pounding me left and right. Life has been pounding me left and right. The game that I have sort of fallen into as comfort that then quickly became, I'm just going to keep doing this because this makes me feel awesome, was Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga.
All right.
Okay.
So one, I sort of went a little unhinged on the Steam summer sale this year.
Me too. I
Yeah.
hear you.
I mean, Disco Elysium Director's Cut and Control Limited Edition were in a bundle together
Yeah.
for $3.
Yep.
And I was like,
what
I
a
got this
bizarre
all.
bundle.
That is weird.
Yeah. And I was like,
I
oh,
already
this will
had
look
one of
way
the games,
better.
so I didn't get the bundle.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, all I have is a PS4. I bet this is going to look awesome on my PC. Yeah, I'll pay $3 for those. And I've never
Oh, yeah.
played Disco Elysium before.
Oh, it's good.
And I've heard that it's totally nuts, and I'm down for that.
Oh, yeah.
Picked up Celeste, my first real copy of Celeste. I played it on other people's systems before, as like a thing at parties and
Right.
such. But that was like $2.
Man, those must have been some ragers. Hey, y'all, let's get together and play some Celeste.
I mean, you'd be amazed how many more times you can scream "fuck" out loud while playing Celeste than you can at most normal parties.
Right.
What was the other big thing was like the Kingdom Hearts collection came out on Steam, and you could get the
Yeah.
entire collection in one bundle for $70, and I was like, that's fingers already on the button. I can't not do that. But one of the ones I picked up was Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga, because I just in general love the Lego Star Wars games, and I love the. It's very silly, but not in a childish way. It's like the silliness is almost like, I know you need this. Like the game devs are basically like, we know why you're playing. We know you need this right now.
To help me out, because there's a lot of these, is this the one that is like, it's like all of the movies, or is this specifically the sequel trilogy stuff?
So
because I thought they did like a couple, I thought there was like one that was like the sequel trilogy stuff, but then another one that was like that plus like all like the other 6 movies, like one big game.
Yeah.
So they did Lego Star Wars: The Force Awakens, and then that sort of had DLC over time that made it the full sequel trilogy. This is the one that's all 9 films.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's what
cool.
I thought. Yeah.
And a bunch of extra stuff thrown in, because the version that was on really good sale was the one with all of the character DLC. So it came with like Star Wars Rebels and Star Wars Andor and Star Wars The Mandalorian and Star Wars Ahsoka, and like a whole bunch of like extra cool characters in different classes that you could get. And I just like, I sat down to play it knowing that what I needed was something that took itself just seriously enough to be an actual game, and no more. More than that. And it does that. Like, it does a pretty good job of one, making the prequel trilogy watchable, and 2, it actually had like really interesting puzzles and puzzle solutions, because the ones that initially got me into the whole kick were the ones on like PS2, where it was like, oh, this one's just the prequels and this one's just the original trilogy, and why didn't we just do that one first? Nobody knows. But
Well, the prequels were hot then. Like that was
were.
like prime prequel game time.
God, did you ever think you would hear the phrase and be able to at least somewhat agree that The Phantom Menace was the best of the prequels? And I mean I mean that sincerely, because I mean, really, really look at it. Yoda was still a puppet. A ton of the effects were still practical when they could be for what they wanted to do. And like, they still had models and puppets like left and right. I mean, I know there's some really egregious CG characters, but they sort of stand out because of the other practical stuff that's there. And yeah, maybe story-wise, it's just as horrible as the others, and you can't really set it apart. but at least the Phantom Menace looks like somebody tried compared to the other two, because we're not going to talk about Attack of the Clones, and Revenge of the Sith really just felt like we were like, well, we have to do it, you know?
I mean,
let's just get it out of the way.
I've always liked the prequels. I liked them back in the day. It was funny too, because like it was funny to see the, you know, because people just assumed like, oh, these movies were always like panned, and it's like, no. Like people were really stoked like when these came out.
They were celebrated at the time.
Yes,
Revenge of the Sith is one of my favorites. Like I'm not like no joke. Like I love it. Like Attack of the Clones, I think is by far the worst of the three, and a lot of that. It's not even the actor's fault. It's the way they were directed.
It's all George.
Yes, it is 100%.
No one was there to tell George, no, George, we're not doing that because that's a bad idea.
Yeah.
And, you know, because I've seen, like, we've all seen some of the behind the scenes stuff that they did. And, like, George talking to Hayden Christensen when he was filming 2 and 3, and Hayden Christensen's reaction to the directing was really all I needed to know about, oh, that's why some of the scenes look the way they do with the actors.
And like
they were essentially ad-libbing every emotion that they had.
Yeah, and they didn't have, none of them had access to the whole script, so they didn't know the context for the scenes they were doing, and like there's a bunch of fundamental problems about the way that he made those movies, which is extra funny when you learn like how Star Wars came together. And I recommend people go to YouTube. I think it's called How Star Wars Was Saved in the Edit. It's a fantastic YouTube video about you know, how that movie would have been trash if it wasn't for the editing that was done, in large part, you know, headed up by his wife at the time. Like there would not be the franchise that we have today if like he had if his original vision, you know, was brought to the screen the way that he intended.
George Lucas's first cut of Star Wars, like Episode 4, A New Hope, just Star Wars, was an unmitigated disaster. His wife saved Star Wars. She saved it so hard. And we owe her eternally for that.
Yeah.
Like,
and then you flash forward, you know, like 15 years, and then he's like, "No, I don't know. I'm just gonna do it my way." And
let me direct in the way. Just get 2 cameras here and shoot both at the same time, so I don't have to get out of my chair. God, I thought this coffee smelled bad on the outside. Get it, guys? Anyway.
Yeah. But I'm still a prequel apologist. Like there's a lot of fun for me to be had in those movies.
I mean, you're not wrong. There is a ton of fun to be had.
Yeah,
and I don't
they're
mean
not
to
as good
disparage
as the
anybody
originals.
I don't mean to disparage anybody that like genuinely enjoys them. I'm just saying that from my perspective and the things that I judge a Star Wars movie on, I think Episode 1 is the best on the metrics that I use. And like you make a really good point about like the way it's made, right? And I think that's why. Which one was it? Was it what I think that was Rogue One, right? Like they kind of made that a lot in the old style where they were using like a lot more practical effects, and I think Solo as well. I really love Solo. I know that movie got a lot of shit, great.
But I
like
love
Solo.
Solo
was awesome.
I really would have liked a sequel to that. But yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why like Rogue One. I mean, apart from like, I mean, the performances are great and everything like that, but like it definitely feels like a more authentic, gritty Star Wars film instead of just like everything on a green screen, like for, you know, every single shot.
Yeah. I mean, they had real locations with CGI in the far background, and that is how CGI has always worked best. When you have people in a real place interacting with real things in their environment, and then often the background is some crazy shit. Yeah, you know, because then you can actually build a nice big world around a real world, and it's immersive instead of distracting.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I mean, it's one of the reasons that I love, well, it's actually the only one of them that I truly love, but the first Thor movie, right? Like, a lot of the stuff that you see in Asgard is like an actual sets that they built, and then they kind of use CG to flesh out like you used to do with the matte paintings in the old days. Like that's kind of what they did to just kind of like make the scenes look bigger, like the areas look bigger, but like there was like an actual like physical thing that they were in and acting around. And even at the time, like Anthony Hopkins was like, well, yeah, like, we've got these beautiful sets and we've got this incredible costuming. It's like, that takes us like, 80% of the way. Like, and then we just have to like add our flourish to it. And then, you flash forward, 10 years and it's a lot more like, it's like, you see the behind the scenes of like some of the movies and it's like, there's nothing there. It's just the two actors. And sometimes it's not even the two actors because they put them together after the fact.
It's one actor acting with a pair of tennis balls on a stick.
Yeah. And I mean, I continue to love the MCU, but like, there's definitely, I am a big practical effects fan and I wish more of that would come back.
Yeah.
More on that later, actually.
Yeah.
I've got a movie to talk about.
Nice. And I didn't mean to like get way off track. Actually, something you said, like adding their own flourish to it, is one of the things I really like about this game. Because the thing that they did in in the Skywalker saga, like the final iteration with everything they could think of thrown in, is they built it in such a way that like you're supposed to play through the story stuff first, but you play it episode by episode and the movies sort of play out in front of you. But unlike the originals where you sort of had a hub world and then you went through doors to go to like specific story levels that then played out in like between the 5 or 6 of them that were in any given area for that one, like episode 4, episode 5 or all that, you would basically flesh out all of Star Wars. No, they built entire worlds. Like, you can just wander around Coruscant. And it's beautiful. They rendered it so well. And so it almost looks weird to see the doopy, like, big, blocky Lego stuff against the backdrop of some of these really beautiful things that they threw together. Because some of the worlds are very photorealistic, especially, like, when they did Tatooine. Like, Tatooine looks incredible. I cannot believe they did what they did. And every single world that you go to is like that. So the game doesn't play out in like a hub. You actually fly around the galaxy.
Oh, cool.
Through the events of the game. And they created a mode called Galactic Free Play, which, because as the game goes through, there's like side missions you can pick up and like special characters you can unlock along the way if you so choose. Like, you can run from objective to objective and like play out the movies as though you were actually in the movies. Or you can take an hour and be like, you know what? No, I'm going to get a bunch of Kyber bricks and up the way that this one character like does damage. And then I'll go and fight whoever or, finish the run on the Death Star or whatever I want to do. And Galactic Free Play lets you just play with your Legos. Like, it's such a brilliant concept to like just drop people in Lego Star Wars and just let them play with their Legos. Like, it's so comforting and warming, and it gives me this feeling that like I'm actually playing more so than like playing a game or going through like a story that I'm really into or getting really good at like fighting mechanics or something or training for the new boss in Elden Ring or something like that. Like, I'm just sitting here playing and making my like old school 4, 5, and 6 Y-Wing, blow up this Star Destroyer because it randomly appeared when I went to this planet. Because capital ships in Galactic Free Play not only exist, you can capture them and make them yours, and they appear randomly as you fly through the galaxy.
Oh, that's cool.
You're like,
That's good.
I mean, they have specific worlds that some of them will appear on. I think right now I'm still trying to get the home one calamari cruiser to appear, because that's always been one of my favorite Star Wars capital ships from Return of the Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, like, 2 of the planets it's supposed to appear by with a random chance, and I keep flying back to them every once in a while. I'm like, is it going to be this time? Ah, damn it. You know? And then once you capture them, there's extras and goodies in the ship. And you don't just capture them by flying and, like, defeating the protection fighters and the defenses. You have to fly into the capital ship, hop out of your fighter or freighter or whatever you're flying, and then take the ship.
Nice. Little shades of Starfield there.
Yeah. Whoever was the idea guy in like the sit down meetings where they were like, why don't you just do this? Was some kind of genius. And the way that they integrated it all together, like, so that it just flows, like, it just makes sense that you're flying around and now you're doing this.
Yeah. Well, and especially considering how deep in they were at that point, right? Because you made a good point, right? Like, these started, like, back on the PS2, so it's like, at a certain point, you could very easily see it's like, well, time to make another one, and then just, like, crank it out. But it sounds like they actually, like, really, like, made some painstaking, you know, craft to it, and really wanted to like put out like like, I'm not sure, I doubt this is the final one, right? I'm sure there'll be more Lego Star Wars, but like,
because they're still making Star Wars.
Yeah. So they'll always have stuff to do. But as far as like, this is probably the last time they'll touch like the core movies, right? Because like at this point they've done like some of those movies in like what, like, aren't there like 3 or 4 different games where like they're featured, right?
And they'll probably do it again if graphics ever get like a big, you know, up thing. If the graphics get gooder, if they get more good, they'll make more. Trust me, there's money.
I'm not sure that they could get much better than what they did in this game, and obviously, like, you know, the characters and the destructible things of the world do stand out, which from a gameplay perspective, I really, really like. Obviously, if you're going for like total full immersion, you know, it's going to take you out of it. But like knowing for a fact that like, oh, I can actually break this and get like studs and money out of it and then buy an upgrade really helps.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Especially like in this like environment where many things are not destructible on purpose, and you sort of need to denote that.
Yeah.
Right.
I was going to say, like, the only thing that I could really see them, like a good reason for them to redo it is if they made, like, the entire series like the Lego movies, where, like, everything's made out of Lego, right? Like the environment's, you know, 100% instead of, like, you know, here on Tatooine, it's like, it's actual shifting sand, but now it's all Lego sand, right? And that type of stuff. Like,
they do play really around with that a little bit. Because, well, they have the photorealistic worlds and the stuff you can do. Let's see, I just recently actually beat through all of story mode. So when you're doing episode 9, there's that part where they like fall into the sinking fields, and it's actually like dark, like the super dark gray grains of sand like on the world, but the effects around the Lego characters are all those like tiny little one-piece studs just falling all over them and like sifting around. I'm like, okay, that's silly in a way that I very much love, because you have this photorealistic background that instantly becomes poppy and sort of ridiculous as you go.
Yeah, for sure. Very cool.
Sounds
good.
I personally highly recommend it, especially if you're at a place, you know, either in your life or your career, something's going on where you just need to take a real break from reality. And just sit down and enjoy something and play, like really play like a kid again.
For sure, yeah.
And now, a word from our sponsors.
This week on Days of Our Suds, Hector and Amelia get hot and heavy. Samantha wakes up from her coma, only to find her twin sister has taken over her life. Isaiah and William butt heads over Chloe. All this and more on the realest soap opera on daytime TV, Days of Our Suds.
I think all of us are kind of in a similar boat lately. I continue to be waiting on my work computer to come back to me so that I can actually work. And you know, I've just been kind of like taking questions from my team, you know, as I can and stuff like that. But like, the anxiety is getting out of control where it's like I'm up until like 4 a.m. now because like I just can't sleep. And you know, I continued from last week trying to find something to play that wasn't Final Fantasy VII Rebirth because like I just don't have the bandwidth for it right now. But I also don't really want to start another like 2024 release because I feel like Rebirth is really like the thing in the way, right? Like
yeah,
it is
I
like
know the feeling. Yeah,
you can't start the next 100-hour game, Julian, until you finish that 100-hour game. I was like, I need something to play, and so the thing that I was wanting to do on Final Fantasy 14, it's really like a bad time to try to do it because everybody's just like knee deep in Dawn Trail. So like there's not a lot of people actually in the Eureka zones right now, so it's probably like, yeah, okay, let them get tired of the new raids and stuff like that, and then they'll start to trickle back in. But I was still like, you know, I don't want to just sit here and I have been watching just a shit ton of YouTube, but like, I also want to play something. And it was funny. I had just deleted this game from my Xbox. I was like, oh, I'm not going to get around to that. But then like I happened to see a YouTube video talking about Loop Hero. And I started to watch a little bit of it, and I was like, you know what? Let me go ahead and re-download that and give it a shot. Now, for people who may have missed it or aren't aware, Loop Hero, it's got a very cool, like dark, I would say pseudo 8-bit aesthetic.
Yeah,
it's better than what the NES could do, but it's not quite what a Super Nintendo could do. So it's kind of in that middle ground.
It's kind of like Battle Kid.
Yeah, but the aesthetic is definitely like there's a handful of what I call like the dark NES games where they had like this very cool, like it was a very different aesthetic than a lot of the stuff coming out at the time. So obviously like the 3 Castlevania games, but also like more obscure stuff like Kickmaster. Like graphically it reminds me a lot of Kickmaster. And so the setup is that like the world has been completely destroyed by this lich and everything's in darkness, but your hero is somehow still there and is just on this path and it's just a loop, right? Like, and so the actual main screen is just this like paved path that's always randomized and the rest of the area is just pitch black. And there's enemies that pop up randomly on the field. You have no control over the battles. So when you encounter an enemy, it's just based on your character's equipment and stats as far as like, you know, how much damage they're doing, how much damage they're taking. But as you kill enemies, you get cards. And the cards are either equipment cards to, you know, upgrade your stuff, or they're actual like environment cards to actually build the world up around your hero. And what the actual goal of each chapter is to put enough stuff on the field to raise this bar that then kind of summons the boss, and the boss appears at your main campsite. And then, you know, when you get there, you can either choose to retreat and keep the stuff that you have, or you can fight the boss. And it's addicting as shit, guys. Like,
nice.
It is very much a just one more loop. Just one. After this loop, I will return. No. I got some good gear that time. Let's go another loop, right? And it's an interesting push and pull because on one hand, you know, you're trying so the enemies get stronger every loop, and you will not necessarily get stronger every loop because it depends on the gear that you're getting. So like, it's very possible that like you can get into a situation where you're on loop 9, but your damage all of a sudden just isn't keeping up because you haven't gotten a good enough weapon to like scale up to those level 9 enemies. And so then you've got to start making some decisions, right? Like, do I want to retreat now and take a portion of my stuff? Or do I want to like try to get back to my campsite and get all of it? But can I survive the rest of this loop to get there? Right. But then also, you know, is this the run? Is this the one where I go ahead and make sure to put everything down and then go challenge the boss? Or, you know, or you're in a situation where it's like, I only need to put like down one more thing to trigger the boss thing, but I'm going to hold off putting anything else down and try to go through some more loops in the hopes that like my gear gets better so that when I'm finally ready to like put that last piece down and trigger the boss fight, that I'm good enough to like fight the boss. And there's like, as far as I can tell, I think there's only 3 classes to unlock, and I've unlocked all of them. You start as a warrior. There's also a rogue that you get that's like the pure like damage dealer, right? Like high evade, high damage, low defense. And then you have the necromancer, and the necromancer has been the one that has been like the only way that I've been able to actually beat the first boss, because I just overwhelm them with it's a 2-factor thing. I overwhelm them with my skeleton minions, but also they're able to equip an amulet that gives them a magic shield, and the shield regenerates every fight. And so like if you've got like 300 magic shield, that's 300 hit points of damage that the enemies have to do before they can start damaging your character. And you add that to the fact that you also have skeletons that they're also targeting, and you can get into a situation where it's like you're just not taking damage, and that feels real good.
Yeah.
And I've put about like 15 hours into it so far. I'm on chapter 2. But I don't know if I'm going to keep going because I kind of hit a wall and it got like super grindy in a way that like it feels like all of my forward momentum has like halted. Like I haven't even gotten close to even seeing the second boss yet, because I'm in a situation where like I can't survive long enough to actually get to that point. But I'm also not getting resources to like upgrade shit to make it easier on me. And it's a really bad feeling. And I actually asked, Philip PK Becker, like I DM'd him, was like, cause he played a ton of it. And I was like, is it a real grindy game? Cause this is the situation I've run into. And he's like, yeah, that's pretty much it. And I'm like, okay. But at the same time, I kind of keep going back. Cause like, it's mindless enough and it's addicting enough, and the music fucking owns. Okay. It's such a good soundtrack. Holy shit. Yeah. To the point that like I turn it off and then like I'm just hearing the soundtrack like when I'm trying to go to sleep. I do highly recommend it. It's still on Game Pass. If you have Game Pass. I'm sure it's also not that expensive if you want to buy it. I do recommend it. Just keep in mind that like, you know, fairly early on into the game, it does hit this like real high grind wall that I just might not be figuring out what I need to. Well, I figured out one of the things that I need to do, which is there's a very specific material that you need to upgrade certain structures. Cause you have a home base that you can kind of outfit with a whole bunch of different stuff that helps you in the long run. That's kind of, you know, cause it is a run based game, but that's kind of how your, you know, the incremental improvements to your runs are coming from upgrading your camp area. And there's this one material that I need, and the way that it spawns is that it's from battles with 4 or more enemies, but you've got to be actually like manufacturing those encounters. So it's like, you know, you got to kind of put specific tiles together to make sure like, okay, with this combination of tiles, there's a much better chance of there being 4 enemies on a single tile at any given time. But that doesn't guarantee that it spawns. And also, the more enemies in a fight, the higher the likelihood is that you're gonna get wrecked. And that's been my issue lately. It's like, okay, I've got the scenario. Like here's a tile with 4 enemies. Oh, I'm dead. Or I get through it and I'm limping past that encounter, but also I didn't get the thing that I needed, and I need a lot of them. So that's the thing where it's like, oh man, I kind of just wish it was balanced just like slightly differently. but it is really cool, and it's very interesting, and I do recommend it.
Yeah.
But that is literally the only game that I've played since the last time that we've been
Well, you
here.
only have a week, so, you know.
True. A shit ton of stuff that I've been waiting for actually dropped all at the same time. Flintlock, Dungeons of Hinterberg, and Kunutsugami all came out like within a day of each other on Game Pass, and it's like, God damn it, that's a lot. That's a lot all at one time, guys.
I forgot about that. Yeah, there is some stuff that did come out. Now, and I just looked at, I was like, I haven't looked at Steam in a little while. Oh, yeah, you're right. That stuff did come out. I'll be goddamned.
Yeah. I did touch Flintlock very briefly today, but I don't have I didn't play it long enough to really say anything about it, so I'll wait until next week.
I know that feeling.
Kunitsugami is reviewing really well, which I'm glad to see. Because I love Capcom and I appreciate what they're doing with all the remakes and remasters and stuff like that. But I also love it when they make new shit, and it's cool to, you know.
Yeah.
The only problem is that sometimes the new shit is exoprimal, which doesn't quite hit the mark. But this sounds like it's actually like doing what it sets out to do. So that's nice to hear.
Right.
But Justin, before I turn things over to you,
you're fine.
I do have a new thing that I'd like to introduce to the stage select.
Yay.
Is it you having the hooch?
Kind of. You could say that.
Okay, good.
So I came across this thing recently that apparently, like, one of the keys to lucid dreaming is to like dream journal, right? And I rarely remember my dreams, but I was like, okay, let's at least like kind of start doing this, right? And so let's, you know, if I'm able to, right? Like if it's not like, oh, it's time to go to work, like I don't have time to write it down.
Okay.
But if it's like, you know, like a weekend or something like that, or I have the time to do it, and I remember the dream, let's do some dream journaling. And so now I would like to introduce a new segment called Julian's Dream Journal. And this is a dream that I added to this. It's the only one I've done so far. But I wrote it down as soon as I got up.
Okay. All right. I'm into it.
I went with Shanna to a movie theater built where Straight Music Company was, which is ironic since it was a theater first. I actually saw Ninja Turtles 2 there.
Okay.
We waited for Joe. Oh, Ninja Turtles 1, actually. Sorry. We waited for Joe, and the plan was to see the new Predator movie. But Shanna selected some romantic comedy that started 30 minutes earlier that I didn't want to see. So they go in, and I'm left figuring out what I want to do. Somehow my car wasn't there, so it was see Predator or wait 2 hours. I buy my ticket. Or try to. The place is very disorganized. The owner takes my money and tears off a not very official looking ticket and tells me that it's unfortunately not on their best screen since an event is going on. Mm-hmm. I meet Kate Blanchett there for some reason. I guess she's the event? Unclear. The theater is laid out in a weird manner. It kind of looks like if the set designer of Pee-wee's Playhouse made a movie theater. I make my way to where I think my screen is, but it's this weird quasi-living room setup where some kids are watching some kids' movie. But you can see a TV nearby that is showing the other screens, and I see the one that I'm sure is my movie, but I can't figure out where to go. I go back to the box office, but it's been closed and dismantled. I tell myself it's for the event. I make my way through some winding corridors, and find kind of a fair setup with booths and stalls that have things to buy and games to play. I try to tell someone I'm lost, but they don't seem to work for the theater and can't help me. I try going back to the kids' area, and this time there's some steps leading down I didn't notice before. I go down the steps, but they collapse into a slide, and I'm dropped into a pit of Legos, I think? Mm-hmm. But it moves like water, and I'm swept away until I'm able to grab onto something and pull myself out. I come to some lab that has all this weird tech. It's like, I remember this, like, there was like tech on the walls, and there was like kind of these like weird looking like stalks coming out of the ground that were all like mechanical.
Okay.
I didn't put that in the journal, but I do remember that part. But yeah, it has this weird tech, but it's also grass and flowers on the ground. Okay. The tech is slightly setting the grass on fire. I find a way to turn on a weak-ass sprinkler that almost puts the fires out, but not quite. The lab is locked, by the way. I also remember that I was worried about, like, the sprinklers, like, electrocuting me because of all of the mechanical shit in the area. Mm-hmm. Suddenly I hear a crazy voice taunting me, almost like a Freddy Krueger or a Jigsaw situation. I tell the voice I'm too tired for this shit and to just come on out. They do, and I end up beating the shit out of them. Mm-hmm. Somehow I get home. The end.
You just got home after that? That's good. That's a good ending.
Yeah, that's much better than the endings of most of my dreams, which are very abrupt.
Yeah.
I usually don't make it to whatever the objective or any objective by the time that I'm like, oh, I'm here now. I'm awake.
So how do you know Kate Blanchett? Not in the dream, but just in general. Like, what are you familiar with them? If you don't mind,
Lord of the Rings
asking?
mainly.
Lord of the Rings. Okay.
Yeah.
What?
I know I've seen her in other stuff. I think she's in the most recent Ocean's movie where it's like the all woman cast. Like I think she's the head. I think she's like the Danny Ocean. Yeah, she's like the Danny Ocean type character, like the leader.
What did she play in the Lord of the Rings one?
Galadriel.
She's the Lady of Light.
Yeah.
Oh right. Okay.
And let's see, she was also in The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, she's on a shit, but yeah.
Yeah, she's very prolific as an actress.
Yes. I just wanted to know where he associated that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Don't know what that means, but thankfully it didn't have the hallmarks of most of my dreams, which is it wasn't tilted at like a weird angle.
Mm-hmm.
My teeth didn't fall out.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have to like pee in a corner somewhere because those are like very like recurring things in my dreams.
Yeah, you'll have that.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
That was Julian's dream journal.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm going to do with that in post. I might try to find like some music to put under it or something. But
there you go.
Yeah. Well, you should at the very end of it, when you say this has been Julian's dream journal, you should put the very low volume light cheering from Monty Python and the Holy Grail at the end. So yeah. Woo-hoo.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wish I could put like the Inception trailer sound. The blah.
Unfortunately, I don't have a button for that yet, but maybe someday.
Maybe someday.
Maybe.
Now that he's got the idea for it, maybe someday soon.
Yes. I don't know if this will be a recurring bit because, again, it kind of depends on if I actually, 1, remember the dream, and 2, have the time to write down the dream into said journal. But that was a really weird one. Like that whole like, and it was funny too. And I think part of it comes from I went to my favorite Chinese buffet, Buffet Palace here in town, and it's one of those things where. And I don't have, like, a lot of people that I know don't have this because they move around a lot. But now being in my 40s and having that, like, I have lived here for almost 40 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I have seen Austin change in many ways. And it's like walking into this buffet going, everybody here that's eating right now has no idea that this used to be a dollar theater, you know? And like... And that was the thing, right? Is that like, so when I said Straight Music Company was there, like it just closed like a couple of years ago, but it was there for like, oh shit, maybe since like 1998. And before that, it was a movie theater, like a first run movie theater. And that's where I saw the first Ninja Turtles movie. Yeah. It's just like one of those things, right? It's just like, it's been there like the whole time that I've been here, just as like a couple different things, but especially in a town like Austin where things change all the time. Like the fact that Straight Music Company was there so long, and then before that it was just a theater, like that's a really good run for a business in Austin.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, and Buffet Palace has been, it's been Buffet Palace longer than it was the Dollar Theater. But still, it's like having that knowledge, right? And like, you know, nobody knows anymore, right? And I think, because, you know, we were talking about arcades last week. And so Buffet Palace is across the street from that mall that had my favorite arcade, Laser One, which is now no longer a mall. They kind of tore it down and turned it into just like a regular, like, you know, shopping center. But it used to be like a walk-in mall with like almost entirely local businesses. Like there was, you know, you had like a couple of you had your anchor stores that were like big chains, but for like the bookstore there was a bookstore that only existed in Austin. There was like 2 locations, you know, just stuff like that. I don't know. I'm sure it's midlife crisis talking.
Yeah.
I'm starting to get wistful about, you know, how things used to look.
I mean, like I have a broad interpretation of what I think your dream means. If you want it.
Yeah, sure.
It might be out there. Okay, the fact that the flowers are on fire in the lab really comes across as a global warming thing to me, because
Yeah.
you kind of have a thing with that.
Yeah.
And you're also afraid of putting out the fire a little bit because of the implication that what you're doing might harm you in the process.
Yes.
Yeah. It's also the sound of fire.
Yeah. 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 But no, I definitely think that, and the fact that you went and did kind of a nostalgic thing that you used to like to do, which is, you know, go to a movie theater with friends, and then slowly that slid down into a global warming thing. I feel like it's yeah.
That tracks a lot. Yeah, because it's like, yeah, a very comfortable thing that I used to do all the time that I don't do anymore, and then it quickly devolved into nonsense and like not a good time.
Yes.
I do really appreciate the fact that like I just didn't have the time for the serial killer shit. Like, they wanted to taunt me. I'm just like, no, you come out here and face me right now.
Right.
I got shit to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. Yeah. I think that holds some water.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the funny, and maybe that dream actually factored into what I ended up doing, which is and I'll talk about it later, but I actually went to the movies. Was that Wednesday? Which I honestly could not tell you the last movie that I saw in the theater.
Oh yeah.
Even though there was a time in the before times where I used, especially during the summer, in the summertime, I was going to the movies like at least once a week.
Right.
Like the last 3 women that I've dated all remarked like, I'm not used to going to the movies this much.
Yeah. It's weird. Like pre-COVID, going to the movie theater, even after my really bad experiences working in a couple, was like a very like fun, meaningful experience for me. And then COVID happened, and I realized just how much I enjoyed not having people around me.
Right.
And that sounds kind of morbid. I mean, when I think about it, I do
good company.
I reminisce, and I have gone back to the movies a few times to see. I went back to see Dune 2, Dooner, and I think I saw Barbie in the movie theater, and I'm not really sure what it was I saw before that. Oh, I saw the other one that I saw, which was a very difficult to describe movie, was Argyle. I know I liked it. I know I had a really great time watching it. It is, you're not supposed to pay attention. If you start paying attention in that movie, you have missed the point. You need to watch the whole thing as though you're dreaming and you're just going along with it. Otherwise, you're going to like interrupt the movie every 5 minutes, and then you're actually going to miss something important. And then that part of your brain is going to go into overload, and you're just going to annoy everybody in the movie by getting up and making like a shadow on the screen as you leave.
Okay.
I'm kind of in a unique position because I know a lot of people have like really bad experiences going to the movies, like even before the pandemic, right? Like, you know, with people talking and stuff like that. Austin historically has been known for having an excellent movie going audience. To the point that like when Robert Rodriguez premiered Sin City, he premiered it in Austin because he wanted to have like a really great premiere. And if you get like the original DVD release of Sin City, there's actually a special audio track on there, which is the recording of the audience at the premiere, so that you can kind of watch it with Austin.
Okay, that's cool.
Because, you know, it's not that like Austinites were like really quiet during the movie. It's just that like they were very respectful. You know, they would laugh where they needed to laugh, clap where they wanted to clap, stuff like that. But they weren't talking through the movie, and they weren't causing disruptions. They were just like really enthusiastic about the movies. That's changed a lot with the combination of like everybody from California kicking most of like the Austinites out, and also COVID. You know, like people kind of forgot how to behave in public, like after being isolated for a while. But at the same time, for me, it's like, so I love going to the movies because of the people, right? Like I kind of get bummed out if I go to a movie and like nobody's like there, right? Because it's like, oh, there's nobody to really like react to this movie around me. You know, like I'll like, I know it's like a pretty regular go-to these days, but like, man, Avengers Endgame opening night in the front row because we couldn't get better seats, like fully packed audience, and everybody locked the fuck in, like, you know, like getting every single like reference or throwback or understanding like the importance of this moment or that moment. Like, fucking A, man, like that was awesome. You know, and I miss that feeling, but I just got so used to not going out to the point that like it's hard for me to go out for anything now. It's hard for me to go get my mail down the block. Like that's where I'm at these days. Yeah. I've put so much, like, I've racked up so much debt because of fucking food delivery. Because like, don't want to get in the car. Don't want to leave the domicile. I don't know. Fees being the way they are, you save like $20 if you're willing to set it to pick up instead of delivery.
That's true.
Not if you have the subscription thing, because like, you know, when I do actually, like, you know, get my fat ass into the car and go, it's like, okay, that was like $3 less.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you factor in gas and everything.
Yeah.
Right.
And time.
Yeah.
And time is not infinite. It is a very valuable resource.
Yep.
So I respect that.
Yeah. Well, Justin, what have you been up to since last time, sir?
Oh boy, oh man. So normally Julian gets on here and is like, oh man, it's been a week, and normally I'm kind of like, it's I've been fine. This is my time where I'm like, man, it's been a week. It's been a fucking week.
Last week was a week for you too, though. Like
that's what, for sure. That was the start of it. And then this week was kind of the climax of all of that stuff.
The climax of all of that stuff so far.
Hopefully. Yeah. Yeah, basically. No, my sister was in town, so that was a whole thing. But I'll basically put it like this for people wondering what the hell I'm talking about. Like right before the last episode, the day before we recorded, you know, our last episode, we had somewhat of a family tragedy. And I'll just leave it at that. And and so the fallout of that has been all this week stuff. Mm-hmm. So that's been pretty busy. On top of my sister randomly being in town and us doing some of that stuff, and then dealing with a previous family tragedy in the fallout of all that stuff, and it's just been like, oh my god, it's just been nonstop. Yeah. So it's been a week. But you know, these things happen. I got to hang out with my niece a little bit more with video games. I learned, so she loves the building games and stuff like that. And when we had Bill on last time, mm-hmm. I remember he was asking about, you know, stuff for his son, I believe.
Yeah, he was asking for like city builder type recommendations for him. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And so I put that into practice because my niece is very much the same way. She loves Minecraft and loves doing all that stuff. And I was like, all right, money where my mouth is. We just went to an amusement park. Let me try this out. And so I got I downloaded Parkitect again on my Steam thing. And I was just like, here you go, Soph, try this out. And she immediately clicked with it. Just loved it. Just adored it. Like,
that's great.
Yeah, she was like, oh, I can, like, occasionally, like, I went out and, you know, just like, hey, you know, mess around with it. See what you can do. I'd come back and she'd have like 5 different things built, but then it'd be like, hey, you don't have any employees. And I had to show her how to hire all this stuff. But like, as soon as I'd show her how to do it, she'd be like, oh, got it. Okay. Now I know how to do that. And it was great. I did, learn one parenting tactic that I find Interesting. Interesting.
Oh boy, let me lean in for this one.
Yeah, interesting to say the least. So to all the parents out there with children, I don't know if this will affect you or not. But I will say one thing. So kids are kids; they'll act up from time to time. So apparently my niece was doing that, and they could not get her to, stop. Apparently, she's much like my sister. My sister was an asshole when she was a kid, so it makes sense. And the one thing that my brother-in-law found that got to her was deleting saved data from her video games.
What?
That is savage.
I was like, that is brutal.
That is okay. I have something to say. It's not a rant. I know it sounds like one. I know from the tone of my voice, it sounds like one. Deleting your kids' save data, to me, not as a gamer, as a person, feels on the level. I don't want to go so far as to say that like it's cruelty, but it is very mean, and I think sends the wrong message, because save data it implies that all of the time and work and effort that they put into that game, especially for a builder game like Architect or Roller Coaster Tycoon or something.
This was Minecraft
that is essentially
specifically. Yes.
Oh shit. Oh, so that's like hours upon hours.
Like, there's a bit of like emotional abuse in here. For me.
I thought this. I felt kind of the same way, where I was like, I'm torn on that.
Yeah, like all the time, effort, and like mental energy that went into creating those things that existed. They existed. She made them.
Right.
Is not important.
Yes.
Yeah.
And doesn't really have meaning at all. And if she ascribes meaning to it, then that's silly, because he could just wipe it. I mean, I don't want to say anything bad about Bill, because
Oh no, this isn't Bill. This is my brother-in-law.
oh, okay. For some reason, like we were having that conversation, and
You're
ADHD will just string things together that really don't go. Okay. No, yeah. I'm like, you can't. There are other ways to enforce like discipline and structure without necessarily the removal of something that somebody put real love in. This might sound like hyperbole, but it's kind of like if your kid is an artist and you go into their room and you take all their paintings and you just fucking trash them.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I loved playing with Legos as a kid, and I had like the play sets, right? Like the actual, like this is like a gas station Lego set, and this is this set.
Yeah,
I had like this whole thing. It's like, yeah, if my dad just like came in one day and just like broke them all, right? Like that would be awful.
Well, not just broke them.
Done.
Right.
Not just broke them, because the save data is gone. Like,
true.
For Minecraft, there is a way to recover it, but it's time intensive and it's very difficult. And a kid, like most kids,
are
not gonna like want to put in that effort or time to do it.
Or even so like with those Lego sets that I had, right? I could at least like go back to the instructions and put them back together. But with your Minecraft thing, it's like you don't remember exactly how you built the thing. You might be able to make an approximation.
Yeah, what you did was unique. There's not really a way to recover that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man,
it's savage. Yeah.
It is.
It
I mean,
is.
I can see it being super effective, in the Pokemon vernacular. Yeah.
It definitely worked. Definitely worked. And now they have. It's almost like one of those things where apparently it just got so bad that and they tried doing other stuff first. They tried to like take the video game away and all this other stuff and do this thing, and that was what they landed on, was like, okay, what if I did this? And they did it, and it worked.
Yeah.
And I remember when they told me that, I was like, I felt kind of the same, where I was like, wow, I don't really know how I feel about that. It's interesting.
Again, initially very funny, but I'm also that guy who laughs at kids' pain.
That's an interesting tactic for that.
Yeah. Because so it's funny because last night literally I played a PS2 game for an upcoming games my mom found appearance that I'm going to be making. And like one of, I don't have my game room set up, but like I do have like my PS2 hastily put together for games my mom found, really.
Right.
But one of the things that I did is that I popped in SmackDown Shut Your Mouth, a couple like last year or something.
Yeah.
Because I still have my creative wrestlers on my memory card. And it's like, man, if that went away, I would be so bummed.
Right.
Because like, not only do I have like a lot of fun, just like creator wrestlers, like, Blaze from Streets of Rage and Blood Rain and Zangief.
Right.
But I've also got like the whole staff of Game Fellas from that area. So that like, there is a version of Julian Titus in that copy of SmackDown Shut Your Mouth that is very much Julian Titus from the year, 2002 or whatever. Right. And like, that's special to me. And like, if that was gone, I would be like super sad about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like if the only game that I have that's applicable to the situation in terms of being able to make a real analogy from being a kid was Roller Coaster Tycoon, because that was my ultimate jam.
Mine too.
I'm so glad it runs on Windows 11 natively, like without any weird workarounds. But like if you had come in and just like deleted my custom park, I mean,
There's
I
almost
can't,
no words for it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I have difficulty expressing just the general emotion that would put me into, let alone what I would do or like how I would react physically or vocally. I mean, it's the really harsh, cruel thing is honestly it demonstrates to your kid that like, because they did it, they obviously felt like it was worth doing, and you do not share that opinion.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that you're, especially depending on the age of the kid, you're like the adult, like you know better. So that opinion has more credibility than like an adult and another adult.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In terms of like, oh, well, that must be just how things are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I
it's interesting.
I do not envy raising kids in the digital age.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy work.
Yeah.
No, for sure not.
Because I've thought about it, like if I ended up with a kid somehow, right? And it's like my knee jerk, in my JDON, my soul, I really feel that like I wouldn't want that kid to have any tech, until they were at least 6 or 7, if not later than that. But also in today's world, I know that also sets them at a disadvantage, for certain things, right? Like, and I've talked in the past about how like, I kind of wish that I had either been like born a couple years earlier or a couple years later, where like I had like better access to certain computers, right? So if I've been born a little earlier and maybe gotten in on like the Commodore 64 or something like that and started to mess around with coding, like that could have changed me fundamentally. Or a little bit later where computers were cheaper and more accessible and you could actually do stuff with them. Like I think about like some of the guys that worked for me that were like about like, 5 to 7 years younger than me, right? And the stuff they had access to in school was so much different than the stuff that I had access to.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like, I don't know, man. It's rough.
Now, I will add to the end of this that they did express regret after doing this.
Okay.
There was kind of like we may have went too far with that one. Like that might have been a little bit much. But at the same time, now they have the threat of it.
That's true. I was going to say.
So like, and
you won't forget that.
No, they will not. There's something to that, I guess. I don't know. Interesting. I thought I'd bring that up because I was just like, that's interesting. That's like one of those things that my parents would have never thought of, Like it
wouldn't have been a thing. Yeah.
No. Absolutely
my
not.
parents like would remove my controllers from my room so that I couldn't play the games, but they wouldn't like melt my memory cards or some shit.
Right. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They wouldn't even know where to start getting rid of some of that stuff. So yeah, it's just kind of an interesting thing. But yeah, no, she really liked Parkitect though. In fact, I was texting during the show at one point and it was my sister asking me how to buy it. And I was like, you're going to have to start a Steam account. I don't know what to tell you.
Here we go.
Enjoy.
Well, I want to say real quick, you know, I know we have a lot of parents in the audience, so weigh in with your questions, comments, and
absolutely.
concerns. I'd be curious to
absolutely
hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah. Please tell me, a childless individual, the truth, because I do not speak from a place of parental experience. I was more just trying to relate my idea.
I'm simply relaying the information that I learned. I don't know if that's, you know, the right thing to do or whatnot or anything. I know she's just at kind of a, you know, almost not so much square one because she, you know, gets on there and plays it still. But you know, like, and has been building stuff. I think she just like gets on there and starts new ones all the time anyway. I don't even know if she remembers the old ones. That's just what she does. I don't know. But she's
one of those kids, instead of like starting from one file and just using that one file, she has like 40 files.
Try 250.
Jesus.
I'm that way with like the few survival games that I've played, where like if I come back to it after a long time, it's like start over. Like you know, Subnautica is like the best example, right? It's like I know I've got the base, I've got all this progress, blah blah blah, but it's like nope, start from scratch. Like gotta do it again.
I kind of relate to her on a like the roller coaster tycoon. I would do that a lot too. I wouldn't really like stick with one save file a lot of the time. I was constantly like, well, I have this idea this time, let me do this, and I'd do that for an entire day, and then the next day I'd come on and be like, okay, that's kind of run its course, let me start a new one. I just keep doing new games like almost every day. So I kind of relate to her on that.
You want to hear the most insane version of that, which I do?
Sure.
Starting a new character on Final Fantasy 14 because I want to play Black Mage, because my other character just he wouldn't be a Black Mage. That's just not in his personality. So like it doesn't feel right for him to become a Black Mage. So I need to make this new character so I can play around with Black Mage. And that's not how that game's supposed to be played. That's how you do World of Warcraft.
The true role player, Julian Titus. I'll tell you what.
Yeah. Like, I have two main characters, right? I have my main that I play with my friend Shanna, and then I have my secondary character that I'm going through the story with my friend Blissey. And it's like, even between those two, right? Like, so my main character, his tank job is Dark Knight because he's the edgy, broody guy. But the other character, he's a paladin because he's like a much more upbeat guy. And that's what he would play. He wouldn't be a Dark Knight. And then also with like secondary jobs that they level, right? So like, you know, my main character, like he's mainly a dragoon and he also is a samurai and a reaper. But then for the other guy, it's like, well, his secondary jobs are monk and ninja, and then later on machinist. So like that machinist is going to be his main secondary job once we get there, because that's just kind of his vibe.
Right.
Okay. I don't want to divert too hard. This, I swear, will probably only be a few minutes.
It's fine. That's what we do.
Did you model your paladin character after his appearance after the paladin from the Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves movie?
Oh no. Well, one, I had this character before that movie came out, but two, like he's a cat boy with a his name is Silk Duskwhite, and so like his coloring is kind of like sunset, so he's got like purple and orange hair to kind of like be like that, like setting sun type motif. And so I was just like, Paladin works really well for him.
Wow. So you sort of went in the opposite direction of Paladaddy. Got it. Okay. I mean, I'm not saying I don't get it. I'm just like sort of vocalizing my thoughts as they come into my head. Okay.
Yeah. No, he's in that movie very briefly, but he is one of the best parts though. I love when he leaves the party. It's like, are you going to walk around the, nope, over the rock. Okay.
Yep. I mean, and just like Paladaddy, I wish could be something that I came up with on my own. That term I first heard when we were watching, or we were talking about the movie with some close friends of ours, my wife and I, like the woman of the couple we were talking to was like, oh yeah, we love that movie, especially And then she like leans in close and gets kind of whispered, just like "Pala Daddy," and I was like, "Okay."
No,
Yeah.
If you're gonna have a or multiple types, I agree with you on that one.
Yeah.
That's a good type.
You know, that
He was the
reminds
main
me-
reason people watched Bridgerton season 1. There wasn't really another reason to watch it.
That reminds me of a thing that I thought of earlier this week, because it's been in the zeitgeist a lot, and I thought about it really hard. If I was with someone and they tried to hawk Tua on me, that would be the end of
whole
the
thing?
encounter. Like that.
Oh,
That's no. I would be like, "Thank you, ma'am. It's over. I'm out."
I know you're trying, but I have to go. Yeah. It's not a cleanliness thing. It's honestly just a respect thing. And I don't have any anymore.
Well, there you go. There you go.
Okay, all right.
What?
I thought for sure that was going to trigger the button. It didn't. All right.
What? But that whole thing. Well,
we're
it's
cooking with
veiled
gas.
It's veiled enough, and it's in the zeitgeist enough, Julian, that I think you're safe. All right, it's fine.
Wow.
You're all
we're,
fine.
we're learning all of the gray areas around the Shasta McNasty.
You guys have been. It has been treaded very carefully as of
Look,
late.
I am the raptor in the enclosure in Jurassic Park 1. I am constantly hitting the fence, but not in the same spot twice.
Right.
They should all be destroyed.
That makes sense.
I am a clever girl.
You are.
Easy,
good.
breezy, beautiful.
All right. Well, I guess other than weird parenting things and what else would I do? I had one day basically, and it was the day after the podcast to play kind of a video game. I was like, well, this is my time. I'm real into this Until Then game. And I'm gonna sit here and play as much as I can. I didn't plan on finishing it. And then I finished it in one day.
Nice.
Well, that's not true. I kind of was like, I only got like 3 chapters left of this game. I did not have 3 chapters left of that game. I had a lot more of that.
Okay.
Yeah. That game is good. It's very good. I liked it a lot. It's again for anybody who's unfamiliar with it. It is basically a visual novel, but a very well kind of directed and like just not, I wouldn't say high budget, but like really well directed one. Like it's got a lot of shit going on. It's got a really good look to it. It is one of those emotional destroyers though, for sure. It's got some shit in there. The one big thing I would say for that game is it sort of loses its own steam about halfway through, I think. It maybe goes on a little too long. It's hard to, it's so hard to talk about it without saying certain things. There are certain games that I've like have to avoid even saying. There's one in particular that if I say the name of it, everybody goes, "Oh, now I know what's happening."
Gotcha.
Like
I appreciate you.
Yeah,
I appreciate that. Like one thing that I've really hated about like people talking around spoilers online is that they'll make a reference to something. It's like everybody knows the reference you're making, so we can now perfectly, figure out what's going on in this thing you're talking about.
Funny enough, it's not like the most popular reference, but it's like even if you look up the reference, it's you'll go, oh, I know, okay, got it. They're doing that, understood. And it's like half the ride is figuring out what the hell they're doing. And it's good. It's a really good game.
Let me ask you this: is the matter of it like kind of losing steam related to taking too long to get its point across, or is it because it's throwing in like some like kind of tacked on gameplay stuff? Because that was my issue with Space for the Unbound.
No, it's a little tough to kind of pin down where it started to lose me, and I think it goes into like a little bit too much of like a thing that they think is really cool, and it's really cool, but like there's the final third of the game could have probably been like a montage, and you would have gotten it just as fine.
Okay.
It's one of those kind of things where you're kind of like, okay, I know what you're doing here, and I get that this is really important, and it's definitely leading to something I want to see, but like I don't know if we need to go to all these different spots and do this again and all this other stuff. It's kind of like taking a little too long. Just show me where this is supposed to diverge a little bit or whatever. It takes a little too long to get to that part, and that's kind of where it loses me. But that being said, the ending was really worth it. So cool. It was really good. And I would warn you, Julian Titus, specifically that, like, if you go into that game, be very, very, it's got some stuff that I think, yes, especially
Dude,
you.
Man, so I have been so stressed this month with all the stuff going on at work and everything like that I forgot what month it actually is.
Yeah.
And it's like, so for newer listeners and James, you haven't known me that long. My mom was killed in a car accident on July 31st, 2015. And it's always a rough time of year. And this year with all this, cause I got laid off and I started a new job and I haven't been all that happy at the new job. And then for now, the last like 5 weeks, like there's been all this like computer problems where I haven't been able to actually work. And there's a lot of like bills piling up and other stuff. They are paying me. It's just, there's been a lot of like crazy expenses this year. This has been the worst year for me since 2015. But then the other day I realized I was like, we're almost at the end of July. And like the fact that I hadn't thought about it yet this month, I feel so terrible. Because it's not because like I've gotten over it or it hurts less. It's just there's been such a flood of other stuff happening to me that it's overwhelmed me. But it's interesting. I like that is one game that I think you should play, but you should definitely go in prepared for what's about to And I would say this, especially the first 1/3 of the game. There's very specifically thirds of this game. I will say that. And the first third of it is incredible. Like bar none incredible. Like honestly, they could have just done that and I would have been like, that was great. Holy shit. But they kind of, it's almost like too much of a good thing. Like, cause you get to a certain point, like it goes into the second third and you're like, okay, this is still pretty good. And you're like, okay, I see what you're doing. And then at a certain point you're like, okay, I do see what you're doing. And I kind of feel like I know where this is going. But it's taking a little while to get there. And then, it's still interesting throughout the entire thing. But yeah, it's one of those games you kind of have to play. And like I said, I'm trying to dance around all the spoilers that I possibly can. But yeah, it's until then, it's definitely worth playing. Definitely a really cool game. I looked it up, when you talked about it last week. I really love the look of it. I would say definitely like, I didn't look enough. I didn't see enough of it. I feel that visual novel is a weird descriptor because it almost, to me, it seems like a different thing. You know what? I will compare it to one game that it is nothing like, but it's similar, just in kind of presentation. Presentation wise, in a lot of its elements, it reminds me of 13 Sentinels. Right. Like where you're on that like screen and it's, side by side and you're having a conversation. You can move around the stuff and talk to people and do different things. It's a lot like that. Yeah. Visual novel elements, but other stuff. Yes. I think that's my thing, right? Because like to me, of true visual novel is like you're just getting the talky bits.
Yes. But people will call it a visual novel because it's I mean,
we don't have a name for it.
Exactly. Really. Yeah. the narrative.
This is why I like
game.
coming up. This is why I like coming up with genre names. Like that's why I like, because I don't like to use the term walking simulator. I like to use day in the life games because that's usually kind of what they are, right?
Yeah.
It's like you're inhabiting like someone's shoes and
Right.
seeing the world through their eyes. Maybe ones like this is like a walk and talkie, like a walk and talk. I don't know.
It's I don't know. It's kind of like a drama. It's just
Once again, I know I've said it for a lot of things. There are things that Dennis Dyack from Silicon Knights used to get a lot of shit for saying.
Yeah.
That have started to just bear out over time. And one of them was he was like, we need to stop like using the terms like FPS or like fighting game and stuff like that, and we need to like move more towards like like movie genres, right? Where this is a romance game, this is a drama game, this is an act, and it's like,
certain games like this. Yeah, I think that perfectly applies. Yeah. Absolutely. I love a lot of its presentation. I really applaud it for, I think these parts are a little too long every now and then, but they do a lot of, the like, almost like WhatsApp, like texting conversation bits and stuff like that. Where like you're basically having a text message conversation with somebody, but they'll show like the character typing things and then deleting them, so you kind of get like his true thoughts before he sends certain things and stuff like that, which I think is a neat little touch. Sometimes they go on a little bit long because they like to do the thing where like, oh, the person's typing, but you're waiting on them to type, and like I guess they're trying to make you feel like the hesitation, because there's like a big love story element in this one too. So it's cute in that way. There's a lot of mini games in it. I love how they do a lot of them. Like they play around with like, this is a simple mini game. You're gonna knock this out of the park, but here's the thing. And like and they do a lot of really cool stuff with that. There's a couple in there that are awful, that are god awful. There was one that, and here, the other thing I would absolutely knock them on is they'll give you these mini games and go, oh, you got it right, you understand how to do it. I'm like, I have no fucking idea what you want me to do right now. Not a fucking clue. There's one where it's like, okay, it's like a rhythm game, but somebody's tossing a coin to you and you got to hit it and it's going to go to the bus driver. And it's a stupid little thing. And I'm like, what the fuck does this want from me? I'm like, what button am I supposed to press? Am I supposed to hit a button? I don't even know. Occasionally my character raises his arm. I don't know how I'm doing that. What is going on?
It's all controlled through Neuralink.
Oh my God. It might as well be. It was really weird. That way, but they do that on occasion where you're just like, okay, I actually don't know what you want from me right now. And that's a little awkward. Sometimes sometimes they shoehorn that stuff in a little bit too. Like, there's a piano element to it. And they made a little mini game, a little rhythm game out of it, and it's fine, but like at the same time, I'm like, I don't really feel like I need to do this. Like this could just be a scene. Like it would be fine,
There are times like that where I'll be like, "What? Why did this have to be a bespoke thing? Like, why couldn't I just press a button?" Yeah,
and sometimes they'll have versions of things you've played before, but not as good. Like they have like basically the Like a Dragon Yakuza karaoke game at one point, and I was like, it's that, but terrible. Like it just feels awful to play, and I was like,
it's like just doing yoga in Grand Theft Auto 5.
Exactly. It's just like this just isn't very good. I don't know why. Now, to be fair, like that none of the mini games matter. Like most of the time, if you pass them or not, the story's going to progress the same way no matter what you do, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Like you might get different
your pride
dialogue.
as a gamer is on the line. It's
and there's achievements attached to it too. Like there's an achievement for like getting a perfect on the piano rhythm game, and I was like, there's no fucking way I'm sitting here for that long to get that. Absolutely not. One of the funniest achievements was that game that I complained about. Just not even participating in it will get you an achievement. So I was like, it's like you knew, then why put it in there?
Yeah.
Really strange, but overall it's great. I think it gets into up its own ass a little bit in that like final third where I'm just like you're kind of killing your own pace, like just reel it in a little bit and like I know where it's going, let's just get there, but
I am very interested in playing it though. It's definitely on the list.
You should. It's really good. It's I'll you might feel the same or you might not. You might get in there like, no, I thought all this stuff was necessary. I'd be really curious to see what you think of it. But yeah, it's and again, there's definitely be prepared, you especially.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah.
Yes, I don't want to blindside you with something that because there was a spot where I was like, it can
be rough sometimes, man.
Yeah.
Like I remember playing the first Life is Strange, and that was not that long after. And the part where, and I talked about it on Nerds Without Pants at the time, like the part where Chloe gets the news about her dad is so like. That's when I knew that the people who wrote that game had experienced exactly what I had experienced because it the way that it happens is so real.
Right.
It was rough.
Yeah.
Like, but at the same time, also between Life is Strange and Life is Strange Before the Storm, which focuses a lot more on Chloe, some of the best games that helped me. I mean, I never really worked through it, but if any time that I got close to working through it was definitely like with those games and actually the entire Life is Strange series because like I said, people on that staff have lost people. Like it shows in every single game.
Right. That one, it's good. It's good. Yeah. It got me more than a couple times, especially like I said, that first third is like, oh man, it's great.
And it's gorgeous. Like I really like, again, they're like, I don't want to like pit them against each other or anything, but they are similar just in first glance. But like, I really loved the look of a Space for the Unbound.
Yeah.
But until then, looks like a Space for the Unbound with like a big budget.
Yes.
Like it's like if a Space for the Unbound team could have like worked on it for like 7 more years, with like a big publisher or something.
Whatever they did to this one, it never stops kind of being impressive for the most part. Like they'll repeat certain bits here and there, like especially when the texting app thing comes along, like, but nothing you're really gonna die over or anything like that. But yeah, really great game. Definitely worth it if you want to bawl your eyes out, I guess. That's Until Then. Until then,
try to be better about like reminding people at the end of the segment.
And I played it all in one sitting. Like I said, that Saturday, my intent was like, I'm gonna maybe finish this, or we'll see how far we get. And then I got to a certain point, and I was like, this is what I'm doing today. Nice. Julian was like, are you streaming today? And I was like, it's a little loud in my house. And it was. I was like, I was kind of like, a lot of things were happening around me, but I was like shutting out the world and just sitting here like, hopefully nobody comes in here and sees me bawling. I don't need them to see me cry right now. That wouldn't be great. Then I have to explain what I'm crying over. It's the whole thing. Oh, man. But yeah.
It takes you out of the genuine emotion that you're in the middle of.
Right.
Yeah, right? Yeah, exactly. But yeah, until then, definitely check that one out. And that's really all I did. I've been messing with some other stuff for stream purposes. I'll just mention what I'm messing with currently. I'm messing with XCOM mods, so we'll see how that goes. And that's about my life right now. Oh, I did play Final Fantasy VII Rebirth for a little bit longer. Because I was showing my niece what RPGs look like now. I was like, these are the RPGs I play. And she was like, this is really cool. And then I got to Coral Mountain and they started like going into some shit. And I was like, I maybe should not play this around you. I forgot. There's things that are going to happen. Right. This is probably not a game I should play in front of children.
So
I remember that
this guy was not born with this gun.
Yeah.
For a hand. That wasn't like a birth defect.
Yes. I didn't quite get there. Like, I didn't quite get to that scene. But I remember getting close to it and being like, or she was... we got to the town and I'm like, oh yeah, right. Everybody knows him because he's from here. So if that's what's going on. She was like, oh, okay. She's like, does he have a machine gun on his hand? I was like, oh, right, they're going to explain that, and that's going to be a whole thing. And, okay, well, we're going to play something else now. That's probably not, this is probably not for kids.
You just reminded me. And this is why I need to finish this game, and we both need to finish this game, because I need to be able to talk about spoilers, because one of the changes that they made to the Dyne fight offended me on such a deep level.
I definitely need to get there then. Yeah, I definitely need to get there.
Really?
Yeah. I'm kind of curious.
On the fight.
On the fight, yeah. It's like, why the fuck is this in here? Like, why did you do this? I also think that, like, they botched one of the most iconic, like, visuals, like, at the end of that. Like, that image. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's not there anymore. And it's such a powerful thing for 1997.
Okay. All right. Well, I gotta get there. Yep. We'll see how that goes.
They took out no spoilers, but we all know what happens to him when that fight is over, and they are discussing how things are going to go for Barrett from here on.
What I'm specifically talking about is him going off the edge and looking like all the crosses that are in the background. Like, that's not there.
And having, jeez.
Yeah. Now, I forget exactly what they replace it with. It's still impactful, but it's just like that visual, is like so striking, right?
Yeah.
And it could have been so well done with the tech they were using visually.
Yeah.
And it's not like it's a teen-rated game or anything like that. Like, they can... It's mature, right? I'm pretty sure.
No, it's teen, but still, you can get away with a lot in a T game.
Is it? Oh, I gotta.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not actively doing drugs or drinking to excess, or like if there's not like a whole bunch of blood and stuff like that, then pretty much anything goes in T for teen.
Yeah. And they still have, like, one of my favorite lines, which is that I've got too much blood on my hands to hold my daughter. Like
good God.
That's still there. But
I'm shocked that's a teen-rated game, honestly. That's nuts.
Really?
Yeah. No, I mean, with all the stuff, just the amount, in this day and age, I am actually, like, considering, like, just, okay, this isn't the one we're talking about, but this is remake or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it's just, like, violence, blood, suggestive themes, language, use of alcohol, and use of tobacco. I'm just like, Jesus, all right, well, that sounds like a fucking mature.
Sounds like a great night.
Yeah, honestly, it sounds great.
It's to the degree that they're all used.
I guess,
right? And they're all used.
I guess so. I guess you have to warn that they're there. So I guess that does make sense. I mean, the original was teen, so I guess you keep it the same.
And the funny thing is, if you go back and play like the HD version of Final Fantasy VII, they've actually censored stuff. Like when you see Genova, like in like they don't. I think it's either they removed the nipples or they cropped it to where like her breasts are no longer like in the CG scene, and like there's like certain bits of dialogue that they've changed or cut. And I want to say that they might have like removed some of the blood textures from the hallways, like in the
I could see that
in the Shinra building, stuff like that.
The Stage Select is made possible through the support and funding of viewers like you. Here are our wonderful patrons.
Well, Justin, before we move on, I think it's time to thank some patrons.
Okay, let's do that.
We appreciate all of our lovely patrons, but every week we like to thank the executive producer tier. And this week we have Bookie.
We have Casey Curran.
We have David Portnov.
We have Dennis Robertson.
We have Extrian.
We have Joel Thoman. Upgrade.
Yes. Upgraded from associate producer to executive producer.
Okay.
Thank you, Joel.
All right.
That means a lot, actually, because it says to me
Hold
that,
on.
like,
That's the wrong button. Hold
That's
on.
the wrong button.
American Express card? Visa?
That's the right button.
That's the
a
right
good
button.
one.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it says to me that like, you know, you appreciate what we do enough to like just bump it up a little bit, even though that currently there's not like any difference as far as like content between associate and executive producer.
We
There will
love
be
you,
eventually.
Joel. You're a good man, and you have a bright future, and you use soap regularly. I'm sure of it.
Probably
Clean.
more often than I do these days.
Yeah, he's killing it. Joel's killing it.
We have Matt Jorgensen.
We have Philip PK Becker,
We have Stephen Lobo.
and we have Xavier Krager.
Yes, thank you to all of our executive producer tiers. Reminder: there is still the vote up on the Patreon for the next Suffer Select. It is between Fight! For PS4 and Lady in a Leotard with a Gun, also for PS4.
Right.
Currently, Lady in a Leotard with a Gun is winning.
Okay.
I was
Fair.
going to say, I feel like that just, like, if we're only basing it on the title, deserves to win.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Fight may be a good descriptor, but it is not, it doesn't evoke much. It's a lazier title, and I'll leave it
it
at
is.
It
Well,
is.
here's the thing, and this we've talked about this a bit. It's definitely an evolving thing because the listeners are. It's going to take a while for them to really understand like what triggers us, right? So like I know we're now taking suggestions from listeners, and like one of them threw out a Sonic game, and it's like that's not going to make me suffer. Like just because I hate Sonic, it doesn't mean I'm going to suffer. I just think that Sonic is kind of lame in general, and the games are just kind of mediocre at best and bad at worst. But I can do one of those any day of the week, no problem. Lady in a Leotard with a Gun, if you look at it next to Fight, is clearly the worst game.
Yeah.
Like it is objectively a bad looking game. But Fight, I think, would actually hurt me more.
It's possible. Yeah.
I don't know, man. And I think we'd have more to say about Fight, but I don't want to influence it. I can go either way. But bad. It's not even necessarily that it's a bad game that's going to result in more suffering.
Mm.
It's a weird thing, and it's going to, obviously this is only the third episode we're about to do, so it'll be this ongoing process and this thing of like, between us and the listeners of, what they think breaks us. Now there was another recommendation in our Patreon or in our Discord that I was like, oh, that might actually hurt me physically.
I might have to look at that.
And I've already, unless something else like comes up, like I'm pretty much guaranteed that one's going to be one of the ones in the poll.
Oh, there you go.
For the episode 4.
There you go.
And I might actually throw it into another poll later because I'm very interested.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, thank you again to our patrons. And if you are interested in what we do and you appreciate what we do, especially if you came to check us out because James is here from RetroFits, consider checking out the link in our link tree, and you can see what we've been doing. Patrons, any tier, get access to the show 2 days early. And then for the $3 and up tier, you get access to bonus content and episodes. But yes, I have one last thing before we get out of here with questions, comments, and concerns.
Ask Sherwin-Williams.
That's not
Oh,
the right
I was,
button. I pressed the wrong button again. Hold on.
You gotta get,
Wow.
you gotta get the buttons under control, Justin.
I was going to say...
I got the good button.
Okay, well, I was going to say, while we're figuring out the buttons, 1, when do you want me to sneak in my surprise segment? And 2, can we just take, 30 seconds really quick from you?
Oh,
to
yeah,
fix something?
absolutely.
Yeah, and actually, let's do your thing when you get back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, here,
30 seconds.
while he's gone, Julian, it's time for the 311 minute. All right. We have one 311 fact. Don't think I forgot about it. Even though I have the wrong episode in the notes because I didn't write notes last time. It's fine. Don't worry about it. This week's 311 minute fact is, lead guitarist Tim Mahoney enjoys a Diet Coke from time to time. And that's your 311 fact of the week. Thank you for your time. These buttons are killing me today. Killing
I
me.
know, man.
I slid. You know what happened? I was so enthusiastic because I was like, "This is my chance." Hit the button, and I slid. I slid in between the button, and then it hit the Sherwin-Williams button. He's not here, so I'm sorry to disappoint everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. He takes a lot to book Sherwin. Well. Me and him are cool. Like, but like he's busy. You know, he's busy with business.
Yeah,
there's a lot of colors.
We do have a few questions stacked up for him. I almost asked him to come on this week, but
that's good.
I think I'll probably let it go a little bit longer.
Yeah,
maybe next week. We
there
might
you go.
No, well,
it might be all right next week. You never know. It's tough.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. All right. Well, what's going on? What are we doing?
Oh, right. So I did prepare a surprise for you guys, and it fortunately leaves itself open to if I and JJ are invited to be guests again, that we could actually continue this segment based off of what it is, or rather based off of the content of it. And the very short backstory of it is, so I read out loud to Dr. Wife, books, stories, online articles, comedy stuff. And one of her favorite things for me to do out loud, other than Terry Pratchett novels, which also let me practice voice acting, so they're useful in two directions, is classic articles written from the golden age of cracked.com. Which was between, I want to say, like 2008 and 2018.
Yep.
Before they were swallowed alive by corporate greed, and all of their great writers were scattered to the winds and forced to fend for themselves.
Yeah. I used to really like that site, actually. I read a lot of stuff on there.
Hold on. I have a question. And this, I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but I don't mind exposing myself. Am I the only one here who has actually purchased and read a Cracked magazine?
Oh, the old, it was like Mad, but not quite Mad magazine. Am I correct?
Yeah,
I
the
used to
actual
have
physical
one of those.
one.
Yeah, I am actually old enough for that.
I am old enough that it existed. No, I did actually. I did.
I remember
but I
finding
did not
the site
have one.
after, like, kind of. I was like, oh right, that used to be like an old magazine or whatever. I think I've only bought maybe one issue of it, or if I even bought it. But I do remember that being a magazine for sure.
When I first saw the site, I was like, oh, they're still making that?
Yeah,
and I was like, oh, they do actual journalism now.
Yeah,
what the fuck?
Yeah, it got really interesting.
Wow,
and
they paid this guy to actually cover the Syrian refugee crisis. Okay, cool.
Right.
I was a bigger Cracked fan than Mad. I bought a few issues of Mad, but I just generally liked the art and jokes of Cracked more. So I had quite a few of those.
Right.
Nice. So the segment that I present to you for judgment and eventual continuation, if we are allowed back on after this, we may not be.
Oh, stop.
This is an exclusive segment for the Stage Select podcast. You can't find it anywhere else. We don't plan on producing it in any other form. This is the RetroFits History Storytime Corner.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. And I put a voice on that in case you want to do something crazy in post, but I'm pretty sure it sounded silly enough that you will not be able to, and I apologize.
Great.
Oh, I'll gussy this up somehow.
So today's history lesson comes from the ancient texts of one author, Luke McKinney, and it is an illustration of the. There are many reasons not to do online gaming.
Mm-hmm.
But these are the 7 biggest dick moves in the history of online gaming.
Okay. All right.
And I will be going through this in my dramatic reading voice that I use for my wife, as well as any voices that may come up for other characters. And I will do my best to make the segments that are obviously pictures make sense. So, as we begin, children. No, that was creepy. Cut that out. Tens of millions of adults spend their free time, all of it, in fictional worlds that are full of more tedious work and assholes than most real-life jobs. Combining internet anonymity with people who have absurd amounts of free time, massive multiplayer online role-playing games, hereby shortened to MMORPG, are a better guarantee of assholery than a digestive system, and yield uglier results. But there are some spectacular douchebags who have put more work into screwing with strangers than should be humanly possible. And I will say that this is a note that was added at the time that the article was written, so it was not added by corporate shills who hate all forms of fun.
Mhm.
It's from the editor, who at the time I believe was Dan O'Brien. It was Dan O'Brien or Dan O'Brien's brother, but it was one of the two. We think of online gaming as a kind of douche nozzle arms race. As soon as we get used to whatever hyper-offensive racism alchemy the 13-year-olds on Xbox Live have dreamed up, parentheses, what exactly do you mean when you say I'm so Asian I'm Mexican? They invent some way to dash our dreams of a safe and accepting internet, like by calling SWAT teams on people who beat them at Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Yep. That's where we are as a species. And before you act all outraged, remember that we tried to warn you. The number 7 spot, according to this, and all of these are real events that happened, which is why this is the historical story corner, Storytime corner, is the EVE Super Heist.
Ah, yes.
Yes.
EVE Online's universe consists of, at the time, so this is 2011, 350,000 active subscribers piloting customizable spacecraft around 7,500 solar systems. Putting that many people in space with lasers might sound like an open horizon to awesome, but the players who hang out there created a fully functional free market economy that ends up feeling more like space accountancy. The ad may look like awesome spaceships flying through with guns attached at warp speed, but it doesn't tell you that you have to pay for those lasers. And to do that, a lot of gameplay involves your screen looking like the world's ugliest Photoshop of a man trying to make a PowerPoint slide entirely out of rotted cheese.
Okay.
Like, I have no other words to describe what I'm looking at.
I mean,
it looks like an interface. It looks like just a desktop with 5 different windows open, and most of them are text.
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe it.
As with the real world economy, making a profit in the world of EVE Online is easier if you form corporations. While many spend years working together for mutual gain, others behave a lot like corporations do in the real world. Or at least how they would if they operated in a universe where murder is legal. For instance, the Guiding Hand Social Club, I'm going to stop here and pause just to say props for creating the ultimate cult name and then making it a corporation.
Yeah.
Assassinates people for profit and steals their stuff for bonuses. In one instance, they were hired to destroy Muriel, the CEO of Ubiquitous Serif Corporation. While many EVE Online players literally grind rocks for hours to make a profit, the Guiding Hand Social Club used the assignment to show everyone what Ocean's 11 would have been like if it took place in the Star Wars universe.
Let's go.
No one has had so much more fun than everyone else playing a game since Michael Jackson suggested Junior Twister.
Ooh, that.
I know, that one hurts. That one hurts.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, this was 2011. This was back when
you could do this. Yeah.
Yeah, you could say that in 2011 because we weren't absolutely certain that it was true.
Right.
Now we are. First, they got jobs with the Target Corporation and worked their way up the ranks. The primary assassin became second in command of the entire firm because the background checks for imaginary space pilots aren't very good. Then, after a year of real-time play, they struck harder than Kaiser Soze in that one flashback scene where he's played by Fabio. That one might actually be a little too old for our listeners. That is from from the movie called The Usual Suspects.
Oh no, our listeners are like, yeah,
They're about our age. Okay.
Yeah,
they're
pretty much.
No, they're older. Like they're my
Okay.
age and older.
No,
like,
that's fair.
Yeah.
I just sometimes I forget. They killed Muriel, emptied the corporation's accounts and hangars, stole everything that wasn't bolted down, and blew up everything that was. Then killed Muriel again because Eve is specifically programmed to let you kill people twice. The first time gives you all the experience and valuable wreckage, but allows the murdered player to escape in a pod. The second does nothing but shout, "Fuck you!" with murder, which is admittedly the best way to do that.
Yeah.
Muriel was in a Navy apocalypse at the time, which is basically EVE Online's equivalent of the Death Star. They scooped up the virtually vacuum-frozen corpse for delivery to a client who had paid the equivalent of $500 real for the hit, which pales in comparison to the $16,500, again, real-world money, worth of items destroyed or stolen in the raid. And holy shit, people are paying to assassinate hated video game characters now. Everyone who doesn't use Akuma is suddenly saving up. Number 6, this is one I actually knew about when it happened, and it's one of the many reasons I've never played World of Warcraft, but this is the Corrupted Blood Plague.
Okay.
And since our listeners are older, many of you will probably remember this as well. In 2005, Blizzard added a new boss with a hit point draining spell that affected anyone standing directly next to him. Since stepping to the boss meant you were probably about to die anyway, they saw no harm in making the spell contagious. The only explanation is that Blizzard had never been on the internet, and therefore had no clue that basic humanity transforms from "don't share this poop-filled video with anyone because it's horrible" to "this is absolutely horrific, I must share it with as many people as possible." Players soon worked out how to teleport the plague out of the dungeon and into the real, fake world. And a Memorpager pandemic was born.
Yeah.
One that resulted in more unconvincing skeletons than Jason and the Argonauts. The hit points it took away were enough to instantly kill low-level players, so high-level players immediately started teleporting around the map as much as possible. Because if there's one thing World of Warcraft players hate more than people who don't play, it's people who do play, but not as much as them.
That sounds right.
The breakfast hen has more respect for its young than online gaming culture, and it's an imaginary bird which lays eggs directly into a frying pan. The plague killed new players, old players, it even infected non-player characters who couldn't get sick but acted as carriers. So, talking to an innkeeper about killing 10 wolves could infect and kill you.
Oh, shit.
But after your 20th, "Lo, noble warrior, kill exactly 10 pests for me, like an OCD Orkin man." That was probably a relief. Nah, I think I'll just lay down and accept my fate, thanks. It was also revealing. In a game where people can be heroic knights or masterful mages, many leaped at the chance to become terrorist Typhoid Mary.
Yeah.
A small Taliban-like force of plague carriers actively fought Blizzard while hiding in the mountains, breaking quarantines, and even incubating the plague through server purges by infecting their own virtual pets, then reinfecting themselves. They forced Blizzard into hard server resets, nuking and reinstalling their entire world. It was douchebaggery on a measurable scientific and national security scale. Real-life scientists and bioterrorism experts now study it as a case example. Presumably before drinking themselves into unconsciousness when they realize they're protecting a species that commits bioterror in order to destroy worlds they hang out in for fun.
Right.
Long live Boner Sling 420. Yeah, please go on, because we could talk about that for a minute before I move on to the next one.
No, I was going to say, like,
hell.
maybe they should have studied it, a little closer for seeing how stuff can spread. But that's
2020.
Yeah.
Oh, God, sorry. I've got allergies.
Right.
Number 5 on this list was Despawn of the Sleeper from EverQuest, a true classic. So you're playing a game where you kill things. What do you think you do with a giant dragon that kills things, can only be woken by killing 4 smaller dragons first, and is now trying to kill you? If you said kill it, you just surprised the hell out of Sony, who, to be fair, have never claimed they weren't wearing human skin suits while studying these Earth things called gamers. Carafirm the Sleeper was EverQuest's dragon equivalent of Sauron, if Sauron drove a Death Star to work.
Mhm.
It had 100 times as many hit points as any other boss, was immune to most damage, had 2 spammable instant kill attacks, because fuck you,
Mhm.
and didn't work right, because it was online and programmed by Sony. It forced the 3 top guilds to cooperate, which makes herding cats look easier than getting Bollywood extras to move in step. It was Sesame Street by way of Lord of the Rings, specifically the end of the 3rd movie, since for over 3 hours, 180 players turned themselves into a Sisyphean Zerg horde. Resurrecting each other faster than the monster could kill them, they put in Herculean feats of teamwork that cruelly mocked the concept of fun. They fought like warrior poets. They fought like Scotsmen. And eventually ground the boss down to 22% health. At which point, Sony turned the whole thing off and acted like it was the player's fault. So if you're wondering how they could keep the PlayStation Network off for a week and act like that's fine, it's because they've been practicing.
Mm.
They took their ball. Oh, go ahead.
I was about to say, I was like, that's not the douchebaggery is on Sony's part, not the players.
Yeah.
That's,
No, not a player.
Yeah,
This one was the corporation.
yeah,
Right.
'Cause that's awesome.
They took their ball and went home, where their ball was a giant harbinger of doom and the focus of the entire game.
Right.
Showing less regard for their users than an Iron Maiden, they released a rubbish and later disproven excuse about how Carafirm's programming had been distracted by an NPC. And you'll notice how even their own excuse is based on their incompetence. Before simply apologizing and resetting the entire event, telling players to try again. It was like Lucy tricking Charlie Brown. If Lucy was making millions of dollars making Charlie Brown miss, and if it took 3 whole weeks to run up to the football.
Mhm.
Oh wow.
Well, I was just
Go
gonna say
ahead.
real quick. Like that makes the ad for EverQuest's online adventures, the PS2 version, even funnier because like that whole thing is like
Mhm.
the business guy calling his friend like, "It's time to kill the dragon."
Yeah. And the reason I said, oh god, number 4 is one that most of us will recognize. It's Crashing the Funeral Party from World of Warcraft.
Okay.
A Horde guild proved a lot of the good things people say about online relationships by holding a respectful in-game funeral for a friend who had
Yes.
died in real life.
Yeah.
And an Alliance guild, Serenity Now, proved everything else they say about online gaming, about online relationships, by massacring everyone present.
Yeah.
As tick moves go, it's effective and tactical. Everyone's clustered together, no one's expecting to fight, and you've got one less target than normal. Proving that the only reason the internet still exists is because it's not possible to kill other people through computer screens, yet.
Mm.
Most people are familiar with World of Warcraft culture, sort of shrugged and said, yeah, they sort of had it coming. The targets were holding their funeral on a PvP server. The victims could have mourned their friend somewhere besides the middle of the battlefield, but instead they mourned a real tragedy to demand special treatment. This was the closest the internet gets to real war, after all, and you don't see soldiers mourning their dead in the middle of the battlefield. Actually, it turns out real-world soldiers even show more respect for the dead than World of Warcraft players. Yes, it was stupid of them to give out their location and advise people they wouldn't be ready to fight without first getting confirmation that everyone was on board with the ceasefire. Yes, they should have known that relying on mutual respect online is like relying on body armor made of beefsteak in a lion enclosure. But if the German and British soldiers managed to hold off avenging real-world deaths for an entire week during World War I, we have a tough time siding with the guys who couldn't hold off for an hour in a fake online world.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was one that I heard about in real time when it happened. And I was like, wow, I'm never playing World of Warcraft, ever.
Yeah.
I will play Warcraft 3 until the servers break down, and then I'm just done with Warcraft, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
Reforged did not dissuade me of that.
I've never played on any PvP servers, and that's like a really shitty thing, especially because I did attend like a memorial for a friend on Final Fantasy XI, but at the same time, I do kind of miss that kind of the Wild West of like MMOs.
Mhm.
You're probably
Yeah.
getting to it, James, because if they don't have the assassination of Lord British on this
Oh.
list, then they done fucked up.
Oh, so that not only is that the next one.
Okay,
I've met Richard Garriott in real
as have
life.
I.
I met him at a tea house in Pflugerville, Texas, where I grew up.
Nice.
It was a tea house run by a Taiwanese family. They were super awesome. And when I met him, one, my ADHD erased all memory of ever like knowing what Ultima was. And he gave me his business card, and I just sat there talking with him like we were two normal human beings. As an adult, I'm like, wow, that was actually a really cool interaction that I had somewhat by accident because my
Yeah.
brain is broken. Me as like a 19-year-old getting back like from it and realizing, oh, that's who he was. I was like, wow, I am the world's biggest dipshit.
Well,
I knew exactly who he was, and we just talked about Ultima like it was a thing he had nothing to do with.
It'll happen. I took a picture with James Milkey from EGM
Nice.
at an E3, and the person who took the picture was Tetsuya Mizuguchi, the creator of Rez. It didn't click when he told me who it was. He just, I knew the name, but nothing else fired. I was just like, oh, thank you so much for taking the picture. And I was like, afterwards, I was like, oh shit.
yeah.
Yeah. But yes, number 3 is assassinating the inventor of Memorpagers from Ultima Online, and it's God. Here we go. Richard Garriott invented the Memorpager, and the computer system he invented found a way to kill him, just like 80s movies warned. Ultima Online was the first Memorpager to hit 100,000 players, teaching developers a lot about social interaction and game economics and what colossal dicks players were about both. Naive programmers spent months coding adventures and monsters only to watch players immediately set about destroying and pillaging the game's mechanics, the physical laws of their world, and each other. If Memorpager players were around when God said, "Let there be light," they'd have called the light gay and plunged the universe back into eternal darkness by squatting their nutsacks over it.
Yeah. Sadly, they probably would have. Oh, man. Oh.
Yep. Dog-headed humanoids riding horses and lots of naked people. Yep,
Yeah.
It's the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Roving gangs of high-level players exterminated noobs the instant they arrived. It was the Jurassic Park of griefers. Except velociraptors are more welcoming, because their tiny little hands can't type FAG on a keyboard.
Oh, jeez.
They used glitches to duplicate items and wrecked the game's economy, showing more hatred for newly arrived citizens and blatant disregard for financial logic than the Tea Party's right wing. Oh, this was, for those of you who are unaware, this was back when MAGA was referred to as the Tea Party.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
When Mr. Garriott visited the cyber world of violent murderers he'd created, it was a Dr. Moravian plan that yielded predictable results. First, his highly publicized appearance attracted every player in the game to one location, crashing the beta servers. The game was forced to turn off the automatic sentries dispatched to protect him. When Garriott logged back in, he forgot to re-enable his invincibility option. User Reigns stole a fire field scroll, only possible because the guards were gone, and tried to come at the king. The attack was so randomly suicidal, Reigns had no idea the invincibility was gone, that Garriott's asbestos player guards were already mocking the assassin over text chat, wondering how the assassin thought such a petty spell could work on the invincible king. Seen right next to that text engulfed in flames. That's him there, in the fire. When their king suddenly burned to death, they reacted about as rationally as a combined video gamer who's been proven wrong and a high-level warlock with access to demons would, by summoning hordes of monsters and massacring everyone at the castle. Without guards, the players were able to fight back, triggering a full-scale virtual riot which ended with admins teleporting entire groups of players into space, where the players survived approximately as well as real people from the Middle Ages would have survived in space.
Love it.
So, at least it was a successful beta test. Garriott wanted to find out what Mamorpager players were like, and they killed him just to see if they could.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the thing, right? Is that like I would hear like stories from like Anthony Gallegos on Rebel FM, like of like, you know, old EverQuest, like classic EverQuest stories and stuff like that, where like, you know, there were a lot fewer restrictions on what players could do and stuff like that. It's like, on one hand, like, yeah, it fostered like just a really gross, toxic player base. But then on the other hand, it's like, but there's something kind of like punk about like how crazy it could get, right? And like just what you could do, you know, where, you know, Final Fantasy 14 to this day is like, you know, kind of referred to as like the Final Fantasy theme park. You know, it's like this very pleasant, you know, experience where you go on the rides and the rides are a lot of fun. And it's like, yeah, but what about like the Wild West of MMOs? Like, I don't know. Kind of respect it partially.
Yeah, you almost have to, really. There's a certain charm to it for sure.
Yeah, this one sort of brought us back from the literal funeral crashing from before. But now it's time to get into the world of the truly ridiculous, because number 2 on the list, getting to the second worst one at the time of this article's writing, was the literal dick attack from Second Life.
Oh, I can see
okay.
it
Yeah, you could. I mean, you don't need pictures for this one. I'm just going to read and go through.
Yeah.
Second Life is a complete virtual environment that complements reality by helping people who are no good at the real world voluntarily remove themselves. One of the biggest figures in this world was millionaire, I don't know how to pronounce this name because it's an online name, Ansh Chung. Real-world teacher Eileen Grief created Ansh as a Second Life avatar, but as the avatar's virtual business grew, she took Ansh as a real name and had to start acting like her in interviews. She's basically a William Gibson character escaped into a real, fake world.
Huh.
Like, and at the time, this is how big this character was, to step away for a second. The character from Second Life that she created was on the cover of Business Week.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, it was a big thing. In an adorable misunderstanding of technology, CNET attempted to film a live interview in the virtual world, forgetting that the real studio audiences only behave because security can flatten them. And Second Life isn't Tron, so that's not an option here. The interview had barely started when Ansh was bombarded with an army of flying, disembodied penises.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, TV networks believe their own rubbish about being able to fight hackers in real time instead of just switching the system off and cursing. So she was left at the mercy of armies of cybercocks.
Mm-hmm.
She teleported out to escape what was rapidly becoming a Japanese cartoon, then revealed she doesn't know how virtual worlds work either. Deciding not to return to the now secure CNET studio, she invited everyone to her own home server instead. There are men hopping back into minefields on one leg with better pattern recognition than that. The cockboardment immediately resumed with mind-bending meta-porn of her virtual body attacked by pictures of her real body photoshopped to hold a giant fake penis. The horrible cockmobile mindlessly pressing against fake women brought down her entire server, generated a lot of publicity for the event, and gave TV executives the idea for Jersey Shore. Had to throw in a little extra comedy there at the end.
Little jab. They got there.
Little fun there. But number one, and honestly of all of these, this is my favorite, and I'm glad it's the top one. This is the ultimate investment scam from Eve, because when it comes to online gaming dick moves, you really can't go wrong with Eve Online.
Oh, yeah.
And if you haven't heard of this yet, get ready, strap in, because this one is great. Player Callie won at EVE Online, despite it being a massively multiplayer game with no victory condition. Other players earn ISK, in-game currency, by mining, completing quests, or killing each other. Callie, on the other hand, simply asked for it. And it worked. And there was nothing they could do about it. Because while other losers went into the economy as honest workers, or corporations, Callie realized he could go in as a bank. The novice mode for illegal profiteering. He spent months running the EVE Intergalactic Bank, EIB. This offered loans for startup EVE corporations and miners who wanted to buy tools with interest rates and repayment plans, and yes, we are still talking about a game people apparently play for fun. Callie certainly had fun. He fulfilled the secret fantasy of every bank manager in history, when one day he walked in and just took all the money.
Yep.
All the money was 790 billion ISK, which translates to about 170,000 real dollars, which he then used to become the greatest video game villain of all time. He spent a huge chunk of the money to build a ridiculously powerful warship, another chunk posting a huge bounty on his own head, then sailed off into space just daring people to kill him. His ship resembling the biggest middle finger in history.
That's pretty great.
The ultimate...
continue.
The ultimate dickery? He posted a 15-minute video bragging about how he got away with it, mocking his loyal employees at EVE Intergalactic Bank, enemies who failed to stop him, and the suckers who basically paid for a second job, essentially paying for the right to have their money stolen. Understand, Callie is now officially smarter than every Bond villain put together, because he found a way to give an expository monologue without getting killed.
Right.
I am always down for an Eve story. I would never play that game, but holy shit, the stuff that comes out of it is incredible.
Luke McKinney wrote multiple of these articles after this. This was the first one he wrote. Every single one of them ends with a story from EVE Online.
Oh yeah.
Because that I don't know what it is about science fiction worlds with creative looks and a lot of possibilities that just attracts the absolute worst aspects of humanity, but it does.
Yeah. And it's always because of the fact that actual real money is kind of involved in it that makes it even more harsh when you especially to even people that don't play video games, when you actually go, listen, that would be the equivalent of this, and somebody paid real money for that. They'll go, oh wow, okay, the impact is that much more.
Yeah, it's let me tell you how this person spent the amount for a real car on a spaceship in a video game that actually isn't out yet. Like,
Yes.
Yeah, it's I mean, it kills me that an in-game currency can have a real world value.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, and obviously 790 billion to 170,000 doesn't sound like a lot, but this was $170,000 in like 2010.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and for the majority of people in America and probably worldwide, that's a transformative amount of money.
Right.
Like, you know.
Yeah, like that wipes out most people's like severely crippling debts.
Right.
Mhm.
I mean, that would wipe out my student loans, and then suddenly, like, I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I can afford like this month. I can afford to be nice to myself."
Mhm.
Right.
You know, like I can afford to save up for like trips to, you know, grow as a person by seeing the world. Yeah, it's
You could.
that. I mean, this is a discussion about like capitalism in general that I could have, and I'm not going to because this is a fun podcast about video games and dick jokes and making people laugh and have a good time and really think about stuff in a broader sense.
Mm.
But yeah, that amount of money for about 80% of the population in America would fix so many issues and allow them to like better themselves immediately
Mm.
Absolutely.
and their positions. So,
Yeah.
and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
I'll expand on it just slightly, which is that, you know, during the Occupy Wall Street movement, you know, I got so frustrated because the message got so quickly taken over by the narrative that it was just a bunch of lazy people that didn't want to do this or that. But it was like, no, you spent all of this money to bail out these large banks and corporations when if you had used that same amount of money and distributed it among the people, it would have corrected the other problem as well, right? Because like people are going to spend the money that they get and eventually like everything would have like kind of equalized out, and the corporations that deserved to fail would have failed, and the corporations that deserved to succeed would have still been around. You know? Like
capitalism may have actually worked if you had let it play out instead of like doing what you did.
Yes.
You know?
Mm.
Well, before we get to questions, comments, and concerns, I have one last thing.
Okay.
I had a doctor's appointment on Wednesday, and my doctor, he's a great doctor, and it's like one of those things where it's like, even though I've moved like further from the city center, I still want to keep him. So it's worth it to me to drive an hour to see him,
Right.
which is what happened here. And it also, you know, it gives me an excuse to like do something in town.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, and I planned this before the appointment. I was like, I'm going to go to the mall afterwards and get shitty Thai food for takeout and take that home. Which I do on occasion. But by the time, you know, the appointment was over and I got to the mall, it was actually like right smack dab in the middle of rush hour. And I was like, oh no, like I don't want to be stuck in traffic like for the next like 2 hours. And I was like, let me go to the theater and see if there's anything that's like about to start, you know, in the next like 20, 30 minutes. And I'll go see pretty much whatever, because I have no idea what's in the theater right now.
Mm.
And there was a movie called Longlegs. And I literally heard about it for the first time that morning because I saw a tweet of someone saying, Alan Wake 2 fans, please go see Longlegs.
I have seen the ads for that movie.
Okay, I had not seen anything for it other than that tweet. And the only thing about the tweet was it was a photo of Saga Anderson in front of her case board, and then a character from Longlegs in front of their case board, and it was a very similar shot. And I was like, okay, I'll go see that. I didn't know what genre it was. I didn't know who was in it. I didn't know what the rating was. Didn't know shit. So, you know, I go in, sit down. I will say that like they showed, I think like 15 trailers. It's the most trailers I've ever seen before a movie.
Yeah.
And I appreciated it simply because I haven't been to the movies in so long. I was like, oh, there's actually stuff now that I'm aware of that I would like to see, including I didn't know that they were making a sequel to Smile, and that is like the scariest horror movie that I've seen in some time. So I'm down for a Smile too.
Right.
But yeah, so Longlegs is a horror movie, and I really, spoiler alert, I really loved it. I thought it was really great. But
I have to say, just looking at the ads, I'm like, yo, that looks interesting. Like,
yes.
Like it looks like, just looks wise, I was like, man, there's something about this that like I almost want to go watch this. Like it looks up my alley. Weirdly enough, it's a horror movie for sure, but it's almost like the way it, and I don't know, maybe it's very different, but I get like a almost like Silence of the Lambs kind of like a vibe from it, sort of.
Yes, it is. So my favorite type of horror is supernatural horror.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay.
but like right next to that is the type of horror where you're not sure what's going on. Like you don't know if what's happening is actually supernatural or if it's just a guy that's like,
right.
And that's the thing is that it's an FBI case, investigating like a series of connected horrific events where the entire family was murdered by the father and then the father committed suicide. And the only thing that connects them together is that at every single scene, there is a letter left signed Longlegs, and it's in like gibberish. Like they can't read what the letter says. They can only see Longlegs written in regular text. But there's no evidence other than the letters that even indicate that anybody else was in the room when the thing went down. And this has been going on over the course of like 30 years.
Okay.
And I won't say much more than that.
Yeah, no, that sounds interesting as hell, actually. Yeah. I'm like, okay, that's cool. Yeah.
Yes. The thing that I really loved about, and I get the Alan Wake 2 comparison, because this movie is shot really well.
Yeah.
I really appreciate the fact that, so one, it's set in 1994, which I also appreciate because, like, hey, no smartphones, you know, like it just lends itself to a certain type of storytelling.
We're going to keep doing that in movies because it just helps with so much stuff.
It helps with so much.
Yeah.
But also, like, it's shot almost like a movie in like 1994 or before, in the sense that the director lets the shots linger. Right. Like we've gotten to a point where, like, you know, movie shots are actually shortening by the year, where we're getting quicker and quicker cuts between speakers and stuff like that. Where here it's like, no, this is like a nice wide shot of a car driving through like a, you know, like the your typical like Midwest, you know, background. Right.
Right.
And it just lets that shot play out, right? And there's a lot of that. Or just like the main character looking at her case board and thinking and like letting that sit, right? And also like, even just like, I think like maybe 15 minutes into the movie, I was like, oh man, Sam Lake would be all over this movie.
Right.
Like it just feels like it feels like something that's right up his alley. And this is a really specific thing. And I would be shocked if it wasn't on purpose. But there's one character, and I won't say who they are, but everything about their wardrobe, their makeup, their hair, and the way that they're acting is 100% a Silent Hill character.
Okay.
Like, if you remember, like, those first 3 Silent Hill games, like, kind of the way everybody's eyes looked and kind of, like, the coloring of their skin and their wardrobe, and also like the weird affected way that a lot of them would talk.
Right.
It's so much that if that wasn't the intent, I'm fucking flabbergasted, because like I saw that character and I was like, this looks like it would be like the new Silent Hill movie. And I know there is a new Silent Hill movie coming out, but this one character in there, and they're not in the movie very much, but in every one of their scenes, is so much more authentic to the Silent Hill feel than any of the previous Silent Hill movies.
Right.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think part of the fun also was just like going in completely blind, because that's what I used to do. Like, well, I wouldn't be completely blind because I used to be much more up on what was coming because I went to the movies all the time.
Right.
But a lot of times what I would do on days off or what have you is I would be like, I'm going to go to the movie theater and I'm going to see what's about to start. Like, and I'm going to go see the next thing that starts as long as it like interests me whatsoever.
Yeah. Right.
I will say I dodged the bullet though, because there was a movie that I also hadn't heard of called like Disciples of the Shadows or something like that.
That sounds
and I was
great.
like, that's an interesting title. And then I saw an ad for it before the movie, and it's about people trying to stop somebody from like removing the Bible from the world.
Oh,
and I'm like,
no, that's a good movie. That's a good movie, Julian. I don't know what you're talking about. That sounds
dodge the
great.
bullet. Oh man. But no, it was a good time and good movie. I do recommend.
Yeah, it's it. Like I said, I've watched, like, I don't usually do this with like any ad that I see for like a movie, especially. Like I'm usually like, keep scrolling, but that one always like catches my attention every time, and I'm like, something about this, like I'm fascinated by it. So yeah, no, I'm glad to know that it's actually pretty good.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I'll say also that, like, horror-wise, like, it's definitely more of a tense horror than it is a jump out at you horror.
That's what it came off as. I was like, that's kind of my alley of horror type stuff. Like, when we get into that sort of thing. Yeah, it sounds cool.
Yeah. And I appreciated the main character. I've never seen the actress before, but there was a part that I vibed with so much because it's like, cause she's like the rookie on the bureau, but she goes to her partner's house and meets her partner's kid. And like, you know, they introduce her to the wife and the kid, but she's just, you can tell that like the social anxiety is so strong that she just kind of stands there and doesn't say anything and kind of shakes her head a little bit. It's like, oh, I feel that in my core.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Also, Nicolas Cage is in it, and he's fantastic. So,
right.
And like, I'm not a huge Nicolas Cage fan. I know he's had like a big renaissance recently, but he's really great.
That's
in
cool.
This.
That's awesome.
So that is Longlegs. Check it out if you are so inclined.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that just leaves us with one last thing to do before we get out of here, gentlemen.
All right.
Unless, James, did you have anything else that you wanted to hit up before we get into questions, comments, and concerns?
No, even since the last time the JJ and I were on the show, it's been sort of brutal, and really Lego Star Wars is all I had to.
Gotcha.
It happens
to
man.
really soothe that ill. Although, okay, I guess I will say this just because it's like 30 seconds. So the voice actor that they got, first off, they got all the voice actors who did Star Wars characters for like Clone Wars.
Okay.
To come back and do the game. So all of the prequel Lego characters actually sound just right.
Nice.
And the voice actor they got to play Qui-Gon Jinn does a very, very good sound-alike of Liam Neeson and threw in Taken jokes.
Nice.
Why not?
I appreciate it.
So, you know what? Just if you were already somewhat considering it from what I said, now you're probably going to go buy it. It's not on sale anymore, but, you know, because the Steam Summer Sale is there to make people blink and miss it. But it is worth the actual price of the game, which is, I don't know, like $30. I don't think it's actually that expensive. Yeah.
Please tell me that there's a cutscene where Qui-Gon Jinn hops a fence and it's done in like 11 takes or 11 cuts. Like that famous Taken I think it's Taken 3 scene.
They didn't do that, but he does, like, if you approach a puzzle that requires the Force and you're playing as Qui-Gon Jinn, he says, I have a particular set of skills that will help you here. And if you accidentally, like, because it's Lego, like, if you accidentally, like, hit a bunch of random civilians with, like, a lightsaber attack as Qui-Gon, he'll go, maybe Anakin was right about the Jedi. It's just like, whoa! Your voice actor didn't have to go that hard, but he did.
Right on.
All right. Well, the last thing that we have before we get out of here is questions, comments, and concerns. There are multiple ways where you can register questions, comments, and concerns. you can email us. Our email address is thestageselectpod@gmail.com. You can DM us on Twitter @stageselectpod. You can go to our Discord, link in the show description. There is a channel there for questions, comments, and concerns. Also, if you throw a comment on like one of the Patreon episodes, or even on like the YouTube version, I will read those as well. We're going to kick things off with an email from Casey Curran, who asks, would you rather order the KFC Guitar Hero box or the Taco Bell Gold PS4 Quesarito box? Assume both the Taco Bell and KFC are on point that day.
Ooh, I've got an answer for this one, actually.
Go. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't have to think about it myself, but yeah, go ahead.
And I don't even like eat chicken anymore, but the KFC box, because the last time that I ate Taco Bell, it was on point. And then for the next 2 days, so was all of the nausea I felt, because I finally reached the age where I can't eat Taco Bell, even when it's really good. And I just felt really sour about that and wanted to share it.
You see, the trick is that if you don't eat anything healthy, you can just keep on going because that's what your body gets used to. That's my trick.
Oh, see, my problem is I genuinely enjoy the taste of like most foods and just like around. I just kind of like to eat, and unfortunately, I ate lettuce.
Yeah, no, so don't do that.
Yeah.
I kind of fucked myself there.
Yeah, you take the vegetable out of the equation and just keep the processed stuff, and the body is just used to the processed stuff. And then when you try to eat the vegetable, the body's like, "What the fuck is this shit?" And it's the opposite thing.
That's how I've been. That's how I'm still alive, right there. That's exactly
much
it.
like a McDonald's hamburger.
Yeah.
You have to remove the vegetables from the equation.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm also going with the KFC Guitar Hero box. I didn't look these up, but if KFC is on point, I would much rather have KFC because of those of those 11 herbs and spices. The Colonel does put an addictive chemical into his chicken that makes you crave it fortnightly. Smart ass. But also, I don't like the quesarito all that much, so that's like a non-starter for me.
Yeah, I can you win anything with the Guitar Hero box though? Because apparently the gold PS4 one was like a contest thing.
That was a contest thing. Famously, Vanessa at the Square Roots podcast won a gold PS4 from this very promotion.
Yes,
nice.
I'm assuming the Guitar Hero box is probably that you win whatever Guitar Hero was out that year.
Yeah, I can't. I'm trying to.
Guitar Hero World Tour, I think. I just looked up that box. It was 2009.
Well, that's
like the band one, I think.
But I mean,
yeah,
that it wasn't. World Tour was pretty not great, if I remember right.
This is fucking loaded.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. It's 2 strips. One of those like little chicken strip sandwiches they used to do.
Yep.
One
snackers,
like leg or drumstick or whatever you want to say. One biscuit and 2 sides and a drink the size of a child's coffin.
Yeah. No,
let's go then. That's
this
the
is
one.
Clearly the answer. Absolutely, 100%. It's not even really a contest. Yeah.
You get the Colonel's mashed potatoes, right? And you, as long as the gravy hasn't been like laced, with like Boston Market shit. That's a really obscure South Park reference, but no, that's the shit you want. Especially again, if the KFC is on point, then hell yeah. The problem for me lately is that every time that I've had KFC in the last couple of years, it has not been on point.
Right. No, and you'll have that every now and then. But no, this looks pretty good. I mean, overall.
Yeah, as an eternal proponent of the Frenched fry, I will say that KFC fries are super delicious, and it's entirely because they're sprinkled with crack. I know that. I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, even without it all gussied up for the the official photo, it's still like, I would be full after I ate that. So that looks great. Yeah, I'm down.
Yes.
Yeah, that's an actual like straight up meal where you might even have a little bit of leftover.
Yeah. Because I'm not going to win any contest there is. That's just not happening. I don't have that kind of luck. So
True.
Yeah.
That's not happening. So that's not even a fact. I'm not even going to enter the contest because it's probably a whole fucking thing. Just to be like, oh no, you got to send in the thing and then you got to do mail. And I'm like, I'm not participating in the U.S. Postal Service. Fuck that. That's too much.
I wouldn't take a gold PS4 if you gave it to me. I hate gold. I hate the aesthetic of gold plated shit. I think it's so tacky.
Okay.
So like, yeah, I wouldn't even be interested. Now that Deadpool Xbox controller with the ass on the back, that I'm interested in.
Okay. Well,
God, I have to know if it makes a noise if you squeeze one of the cheeks. I have to know. And I don't want anyone to spoil it for me. I don't even own an Xbox. I'll just get that to use on my PC.
there you go.
Yeah.
I have to know.
All right. Well, heading on over to Discord. Justin, did you want to take this? Are you on the Discord?
No, I'm not. You might have to take it again. I'm sorry. I didn't know this was coming.
Dennis75 says, just listen to the most recent episode. And just to be clear, Julian, are you saying that you do not have the Tower of Power proudly displayed in the center of your gaming collection? I am in shock. I actually had to look that up because I did not know what he was referring to.
Mm-hmm.
The Tower of Power is, it's a status symbol among Sega aficionados and collectors. It's truly a beautiful thing when you see it.
Yeah, so it's the Genesis 32X, Sonic and Knuckles, and then you throw like a Game Genie, and then like one of the other Snap-on games, because I think you can go like a couple levels higher than that. Here's the thing: I'm not that big of a Sega fan. Like I own currently I'm on a collection, and you know I'm very close to finally saying fuck it and just getting rid of the collection. I own a Dreamcast and a Sega Genesis.
Nice.
And that's it. And then for the Dreamcast, I have like 3 games, and the Genesis, I think I have 2.
Right.
Like my collection is very Nintendo and PlayStation focused.
Yeah.
Because that's
right.
just that's always what I was into. Yeah.
Sega was the console I went to a friend's house to play. That's really, that was it for me. So that's my level of nostalgia for that. But yeah.
I was a Sega kid and an RPG.
You would have been the friend whose house I went over to play it at. Yeah,
you would have come over. We would have played some Phantasy Star 4, or one of us would have played it while the
None
other
of my
one
friends
watched.
were that fucking cool. They didn't have that game. They were all like, you just watch me play Sonic for like 2 hours. I'm like, all right, sure, I'll do that.
Well, yeah. That, to be fair, a lot of people didn't have that game because
it was $100.
It was pretty. Yeah.
Oh, it was $120. Phantasy Star 3 was $100, and Phantasy Star 2 was $80 because some dickhead executive at Sega of America thought that there was no market for RPGs in America, and he tried to prove it by overpricing all 3 of those RPGs, making them progressively more expensive, because with every single one, he was proven wrong when it sold out.
Is that the reason? Because like I remember
that is the real reason.
Oh, I always thought it came down to the memory, because like Super Nintendo games also, like, you know, when you're talking about like, you know, Final Fantasy 3 and Chrono Trigger, like they were definitely pricier because of like the
they got up there.
Yeah.
But I think they originally started at 79.
Yeah, they weren't.
Yeah,
I don't think anything on the Super Nintendo that I can think of went past 100. Maybe Earthbound. Only because of the guide and the goodies inside.
It was up there, but I don't think it was that high. Yeah.
Well, because it came with swag, but I think that one was 90.
Yeah. I bought it at a Walmart for, I remember the specific price. It was in like their bargain bin. This was long after the Super Nintendo was kind of like, it was outdated at this point, but they still had copies of the big Earthbound box, and I bought that. Or I didn't buy it. I was too young, but I convinced somebody to buy it for me because it was $30. Mm-hmm. And they were like, okay, I guess that's fine, because it gave me something to do. That was when I was in goddamn Virginia. There was nothing to do there, guys. It was terrible.
There was video games, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can fire that 22
You
rifle.
can fire a
and some cans.
22 rifle. You can do that. I mean, but you got to have one. And they weren't giving. I was a child. They weren't giving me one of those. So you know.
Well,
You grew up in the
not
wrong
yet.
age. Now, if you were
Yeah.
a kid now,
That's
then
true.
yeah, like,
that's true.
no problem.
That's true.
You need
That's
one
true.
because you need to protect yourself when you go to school. Anyway,
Yeah.
everything is awful.
everything is cool when you're part of a team.
That-
Okay, I'm
why,
sorry.
that's where my head goes to. I'm not going to lie to you. That's exactly what I completed that with. And I was like, don't say it out loud, but I'm glad you did. It's great.
Yeah, no,
Justin has a reputation to uphold.
Yeah.
that's okay. I'm here to protect
I'm
you.
glad.
I'm here to
I'm
protect
glad.
your dignity by sacrificing what little I never had.
Well, it's not even that. It's just like, well, it seems wildly inappropriate, and maybe nobody will get the joke. But now that you did, okay, good, awesome.
All right.
Great.
Well, next up on the Discord, or do you have it up, Justin? Do you want to read this one?
No,
Or-
I didn't get it up.
No, it's fine,
I
it's
didn't know
fine.
there was more. I'm sorry.
Fuck it, we'll do it live.
Yeah.
This one comes to us from RetroFits James. I'm not sure who that is.
Oh,
Oh,
he
man.
sounds quite handsome and smart.
It says,
Yeah, they do.
here's a comment pertaining to the most recent release. In OG Final Fantasy VII in Lower JDON, for the Mr. Dolphin part, if you don't move at all and just blow the whistle twice, it will put Cloud on the beam. Works every time. Somebody
Yep.
saluted that comment, by the way. That
Yeah,
was-
nice.
I remember I figured that out on it was like the fourth or fifth time I had played Final Fantasy VII because I was a teenager or like a tween at that point, somewhere
Mhm.
around like 12 or 13. And I got to that part and I was just like sort of having fun and wasting time because it was, a repeat playthrough of a higher count.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I'm just going to sit here and blow the whistle for a while and jump around and it's fun. And then I just blew the whistle twice. I ended up on the beam. I was like, what? And I reloaded, which took me back further than I wanted it to, and played back to that part, blew the whistle twice. And I was like, oh.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, like nobody put that in a guide for me
No.
to read. I was just sitting there digging around and found that out. And now I really want to share that with everybody who's willing to listen to it.
As much as I know about that game, that is one thing I did not know. So yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. I played it the week it came out and finished it. And then I played it part of the way through, like 6 or 7 years later. And then I played like almost up to the end of disc 1 when I discovered no one can know about this a few years ago. But
Right.
I didn't go further than that. So I've stopped because I've been doing other stuff because this year has been really big about games and also we launched the show. But
Mhm.
I am still in my playthrough of the entire series in order because like I'm about halfway through Final Fantasy IV on the Pixel remaster.
I keep thinking about doing the same thing because I got them all on Steam right there, and I even organized them now, so they're all right there in order, and I could
Mhm.
definitely do it. And I could buy the other ones too and just do it, but I'm not going to do it. I know I'm not.
You don't revisit stuff
I
all
really
that
don't.
often.
But there are definitely ones that I've never played or finished or I've touched before, but I've never really actually fucked with as much as I maybe should.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Like playing Final Fantasy III for the second time and the first time in the
Mhm.
actual original format, not the 3D version that we
Yeah.
got on the DS. Like really made me appreciate that game in a way
Yeah.
that I didn't when the DS version came out.
It's been years and years since I messed with 6, and I always have really fond memories with it. So that's the one I always kind of lean towards. I'm like, man, I know a lot of it, but like I really want to play it again, and I just don't.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Yeah.
Final question on the Discord from Philip.
All right.
Is Mario a dragoon?
No, you need a spear. right?
Yes, but only in one iteration.
Which iteration?
Super Mario World. It is the only one where you can speed up with the cape, jump really high, and then dive bomb for a power attack. That is the only iteration of Mario that lets you do a high jump with a power attack finish on the ground.
That's
Therefore,
fair.
Super Mario World Mario is a dragoon, and by extension, so is Luigi.
okay. Does a dragoon need a spear?
That's my thing, is that I say that Mario is not a Dragoon,
Ooh.
but he does have the skills to be a very good Dragoon.
He could be an amazing one.
Yes.
In every Final Fantasy iteration of the Dragoon that I have seen until 7, because 7 had several restrictions that they went into, Dragoons could equip swords and weapons other than spears.
Yeah.
So, and could still jump with those other weapons equipped. So, does the Dragoon inhabit the job class, or do they inhabit the full aesthetic plus job class, is the question that comes to mind.
Yeah.
I feel that he's missing like the accoutrement of a Dragoon simply because he hasn't gone through the training. Like I think that he could become a Dragoon very easily. Like he would pass the training.
Yeah,
instantly.
he would absolutely be running the Dragoon hierarchy, I guess. He would be amazing at it. But he just hasn't done it. He's just like, I don't need
the armor.
to.
He needs the weapon. Also, he needs the dragon, depending on which version of the Dragoon.
Well,
you're looking
Yoshi,
at.
he's got.
He's got. Yeah,
Yoshi
got that. So yeah,
is a dinosaur, a reptilian by design, and it does inhabit several dragon-like features.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
So even by the writer definition, he does somewhat fit especially well in Super Mario World.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He can jump off of Yoshi and onto other things. Like, there's a lot. I mean, yeah, it's kind of wild there.
So I will say
that actually
go ahead, James.
Sorry, this is just really short. That actually fits hardcore Dragon Rider lore.
Right.
Where if the dragon dies, the rider will always can survive. Mm-hmm. But if the rider dies, the dragon dies with the rider.
Oh. Okay.
So sending Yoshi to his death to make that higher platform, realizing that if it really came down to it, you would sacrifice your friend to survive.
That's fair.
That's old school Dragon Rider lore.
Right.
Yeah. I will say, so there is a part in the Super Mario Brothers movie where Princess Toadstool grabs a lance, and it's like a really cool move where she like kicks it with her foot and flies into her hand, and she walks down this balcony. After the trailer came out that showed that scene, there was this, I don't know, I'm sure it's on YouTube, but there was this amazing edit that someone did where they cut it in with the Heavensward trailer from Final Fantasy XIV, which is the Dragoon trailer, and with the Heavensward music, and it fits so remarkably well.
Oh, nice.
That's cool.
I love that when people find those things where the timing of music and ideas just matches up so well that they can mash up without really editing it.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Oh, speaking of Final Fantasy ones, wow, that triggered something. Somebody took the Final Fantasy 16 boss fight where the main character, I don't know his name, I haven't played it, transforms into Ifrit and set it to the version of Holding Out for a Hero that Jennifer Saunders sings in Shrek 2. And
all right.
And did it with perfect button presses through the fight. They got the perfect timing on the button presses and everything. And apparently you could sit there and watch it, and I did not notice one time where the beat was off.
Nice.
It was a sight to behold.
I'll believe it.
That reminds me, I'm sure you guys have seen this because it's legendary at this point, but the Voldo Smooth Criminal Soul Calibur video.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
so good.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So good. Oh, and hopefully this episode was good.
I'm sure it was fine.
Because I think that's a show, Justin.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
James, thank you so much for being back on. It's been a blast as always.
Thanks for having me, and thank you for putting a link to RetroFits in the description, and
always.
Always,
and
man.
thank you for checking out our Quest 64 playthrough. If people are listening to this and want to follow that link, know that I have meticulously set up playlists for every single video we've ever released to make browsing our insane channel that much easier.
There you go.
Yes.
So I really did
started the Legend of Legaia playthrough because I love Legend of Legaia.
That one gets great again because JJ and I are trying to take on the role of kids in this grand adventure for adults and pointing out just how ridiculous it is.
Yeah. JJ also way too good at doing sexy ladies. like way too good at making those voices.
Oh yeah, see, I try to. I do my best
JJ.
with, like,
Did I say James? JJ, like his sexy lady.
No,
voices.
you said JJ.
I did.
Yeah.
Okay.
And,
yes.
and I do my best to do like the breathy voice that I did for Shannon in Quest 64, but I know that I just sound like myself, and I'm not quite reaching the pinnacle of, oh, so you can do that voice. Okay. I look at you slightly differently now, but it is not for a bad reason.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, and I've tried to like every one of them. I know I've forgotten a couple times, but I've liked nearly everyone that I've watched.
That's very cool of you. It's, again, this show's never going to be famous enough to where I make money about it or worry about likes. This is something I did because JJ and I love it. It really is a way to relieve stress and do something creative and put ourselves out into the world in a way that hopefully makes your life better. And, when you see it, makes you laugh, makes you think a little bit, and generally gives you a good time. And that's really the whole point.
Yeah.
So
pretty much the point of the State Select as well.
Nice.
But you can find us online in various places. James, where I mean, obviously we'll have the link to RetroFits will be in the show notes, but you're also elsewhere if you want people to find you.
Yeah, so I think honestly the best way to find us is one, we do have an email account set up because we have, YouTube show. It's retrofitsshow@gmail.com. I'm going to be honest, I do not check it very often. Now that I've said that on this show, I will make a point to check it every day because it is much more interesting than my personal email account, which is filled with spam.
Yeah.
I also am the sole runner for the RetroFits Twitter account, which is @FitsRetro. And you can see me there liking and reposting a bunch of truly deranged and unhinged, but very funny stuff. And also posting episodes when I remember to. Honestly, work has been kicking my ass so hard that I really honestly forgot to do that a few times across the past few weeks.
Yeah, I love that.
But, and I do my best to interact with people who leave a comment or who respond to comments that I leave on their stuff. JJ does not participate in the Twitter account because I would never force that man to be on Twitter. I feel like that would be cruel and unusual.
That's fair.
I do it as a sort of self-sacrifice for the show.
There you go.
I gotta say though, like, in the last, I want to say, let's say 7 or 8 months, like, I've actually had like really nice relationships that have started on Twitter.
That's good.
Like, you guys are one of them. Weston over at Big Nerd Gaming. There's a couple people that I don't necessarily interact with regularly, but I do respond here and there on their tweets and stuff like that, and just like nice, pleasant conversations, usually about video games, and it's really nice. And
yeah,
that's also like it's through there that I met Mike Fallick, who has been like a long time co-conspirator and friend in various projects, and so it's actually been a surprisingly like pleasant place for me as far as like meeting internet friends and that parlaying into podcasting friends and stuff like that. So it's not all bad over there. It a lot of it is bad, but I think my feed is pretty well curated at this point, where like even when certain things happened in the last week, it wasn't a ton of that on my feed, or at least not the worst part of it. It was more of the funnier side of it. So,
Right.
Yeah.
But Justin, how about you?
I'm also on twitter.com or whatever the hell it is now. But I don't really get on there very much, but I'm on there. At Tyrone_Swift on there. Twitch.tv/Tyrone Swift is where you can find me streaming. I didn't get to do it last week because it was very loud at my house. But I do plan on doing one this week and probably the week of whenever the hell you're listening to this. Also, Tyrone Swift TV on YouTube is where you can find all the old shit. So there you go.
Still crossing my fingers for I Am Part-Time Worker.
I'm considering it. It's kind of my backup tomorrow.
Okay.
I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's like, I think you're going to get the same experience. Like I don't think it's like very random. Like I think it's a very like, you know,
I think
by the
so.
numbers type thing, but I still want to see you engage with it.
All right.
Because even whatever little you've seen of it has not prepared you for the entirety of I Am Part-Time Worker.
Okay.
And that would please me so greatly.
Okay.
You can find me on Twitter at Julian_Titus. Once again, the show is at Stage Select Pod. You can also find me on Blue Sky. I've been trying to be on there a little bit more, but I guess I'm not following very many people on there, so it's like there's not much to actually check on Blue Sky, which then in turn leads me to forget to post on Blue Sky. But I am on there. Just search for Julian Titus.
I honestly forgot I was on Blue Sky as the RetroFits channel until you mentioned that.
Yeah, that's about right.
That's about right.
Thanks as always to the wonderful Megan McDuffie for our awesome theme song and interstitial tracks. Thanks to friend of the show, John Gholson, for being our announcer and having our wonderful logo. Another reminder to go check out his movie, Make Popular Movies, that is now free on Tubi. You can also buy it, I think, now for like $5 on Amazon, which I probably will go ahead and do. So that way you can watch it ad free. But if you like the randomness of the stage select, you will enjoy Make Popular Movies, and John is amazing in it. So that is going to do it for this episode. I've been Julian Titus. He's been Justin Ham. Special thanks to James from RetroFits. We've been the Stage Select, signing off.
Uh-huh.
The Stage Select is copyrighted and owned by Space Monkey Mafia Productions, specializing in independent podcasting. Please consider sharing the show with your friends and support us by joining our Patreon or donating to our coffee. Thank you, and good night.